Chapter 700. 277 The relatives who flew onto the branches, the Great God Files first update. _2 Ren Wanxian quickly took a glass and followed Dong Chuan. At Ji Xian's table, Ji Heng and Jiang Fulai were not present, and his own words had always been scarce. Mu Yining had just entered the hall and knew the situation upon seeing Mu Yujin's area. She glanced at Dong Chuan and Ren Wanxian, then introduced the people at the table with a light smile. Xiaochuan, these two here are Director Feng and Chairman Liao, and this is CEO Su. As she introduced them one by one, Dong Chuan finally understood who Director Feng was. He was surprised on the inside, and his demeanor became even more humble. He had initially thought that Ji Xiaojun and Xin Qing were just ordinary people. In fact, Ji Heng was indeed born of a concubine, and later chose to leave the Mu family voluntarily. He hadn't contacted the Mu family for 40 or 50 years, and had only been in Xiangqing, so Dong Chuan hadn't taken much notice at first. Who knew that this relative would pull such a grand move? Dong Chuan thought to himself that this year, for the Lunar New Year, their elders and mother would personally visit the Mu mansion to pay their respects. Dong Chuan had always held himself with high status and dignity, even when facing Mu Yujun. This was the first time that Ren Wanxian saw him lowering himself to such an extent. As for the table behind them, Dong Chuan didn't dare to take another glance. Ren Wanxian looked back. At Bai Lian's table, Director Chen had left in the middle of his meal to join Ji Heng for a drink, while Su En and Ji Xiaojun were discussing business at the table behind. Amidst the clinking of glasses, even Xin Qing was repeatedly toasted. She didn't understand the situation, only hazily joining in the drinking with her beverage. When others toasted, they drank a shot of liquor in one gulp, but with each sip of her drink, no one dared to say a word. Tang Ming and Pu Xiaohan were chattering away, with Pu Xiaohan leisurely videotaping the process of serving the dishes with her phone. Ren Wanxian frowned slightly as she observed Pu Xiaohan doing this, and her peripheral vision caught Bai Lian and Jiang Fulai beside her, giving her a sudden jolt. She simply could not understand. Was kid. Tang Ming still had to go back in the afternoon to check on Zhang Shi's homework. Had only had a few drinks and suddenly thought of something. When will you give the gift to Uncle Ji? Ning Xiao lowered his head to look at the paper box at his feet. The box was a 50-centimeter wide square, quite large and with some heft. He didn't yet know what was inside but knew that Wang Yufeng was not one to joke about this kind of thing. I'll give it to him when we leave. Tang Ming nodded. He wanted to see the gift in advance. But the timing was simply not right. Ji Heng was staying at the Mu mansion for dinner, and Ji Mulan was going to stay there for a few days. Bai Lian and the group of students were all heading back. Mu Yining had been deliberately not focusing on Jiang Fulai, but she stopped Bai Lian. Alien, the Mu mansion has many animals and a lake created by redirecting water. Won't you stay for the night to see the scenery? The scenery of the Mu mansion was indeed rare. Anyone else would surely want to stay for the night, but Bai Lian, who had once lived in the general residence which far surpassed the Mu mansion, had no curiosity about it. No thank you, Bai Lian said as she lowered her gaze and methodically tied her cloak strings, looping them into a loose knot. All right. Mu Yining had no other options. As Bai Lian and Jiang Fulai were about to leave, a bunch of people from the Mu family saw them out. But the only one who could speak with them was Mu Yining. The Mu clan leader wanted to add a word, but since they had no prior interaction with Ji Xiaojun and Xin Qing, they were not close enough to speak. Mu Zhao was indeed familiar with Xin Qing. Bai Lian found Mu Zhao in the crowd and raised her eyebrows. Was it you who sent me the friend request just now? Caught off guard by the direct address, Mu Zhao was quite surprised. Yes, it was me. Bai Lian nodded. On hearing about this connection to Bai Lian, Jiang Fulai, who had already moved aside, also raised his eyes indifferently, giving Mu Zhao a glance. Mu Zhao's back stiffened under the gaze. At the right moment, Ning Xiao handed the paper box to Ji Xiaojun, concisely stating, Uncle Ji. Is this for me? Ji Xiaojun, who had had a bit to drink and was conversing with Liao Guangshuan, took the square paper box with a smile, thinking it was a small token from a child. Thank you. After receiving it, he felt its few pounds of weight. Not heavy, not knowing what was inside. A bunch of people stood at the entrance of the Mu mansion. waiting for the car carrying Bai Lian and the others to drive away. And the breath that had been hanging in everyone's hearts finally dissipated. Ever since Bai Lian and Jiang Fulai had appeared, Mu Yujun had been much more silent. She walked back a distance with Mu Yining before speaking up. Why didn't you say earlier? I also just found out. Mu Yining shook her head, her expression serious. You can see as well, he's come because of our great-grandfather and others, not directly related to our Mu family. Mu Yujun fell silent. There was another family banquet in the evening, but Mu Yujun didn't stay, hastily returning to the Gao family. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 701, 277 The relatives who flew onto the branches, the Great God Files, first update, _3 Mu Yining watched her leaving, slightly shook her head, and then returned to Lanlin Pavilion, where Ji Xiaojun and Shen Qing were present, with the butler serving them tea. Ji Xiaojun and Shen Qing were opening boxes. Mu Yining sat in her seat, lifted the teacup, and gazed at the cardboard box. The butler spoke softly. This is a gift from Miss Bei's classmate. There were many gifts today. The storeroom was filled with treasures for Ji Xiaojun. Mu Yining thought it was better to be a college student, with no burdens on their mind. The cardboard box was opened, and Ji Xiaojun scooped out a vase from inside with one hand. It was a peach and plum blossom openwork heart-turning vase. The body was gilded, and one could see it had some age, exquisite in craftsmanship. Cough cough. Mu Yining almost spat out her water. She put down the teacup, and hesitantly asked the butler. This vase, have I seen it in an auction house catalog before? Although the Mu family did not have a private museum like the Chen family, they too had quite a few antiques at home. The butler could tell as well. This vase was no ordinary item. In the afternoon, Ning Xiao went to the school to help Zhou Wenqing. Bai Lian went to meet Gao Shu in the evening. Gao Shu usually lived in the apartment assigned by the drama theater, a 3-bedroom and 1 living room place, mostly occupied by her alone, very spacious. Bai Lian brought a bouquet of fresh flowers from Aunt Zhang's to her place. When Gao Shu opened the door, she saw the 2 people outside, Bai Lian holding a bright bouquet, dressed in white clothes with a green cape draped over her. Sheer elegance and simplicity. Looking at the person beside her, Jiang Fulai stood with one hand in his pocket, indifferent and aloof, like the distant sunlight of a winter day. Auntie. Even his tone was casual. Gao Shu was taken aback and then smiled. She took the flowers from Bai Lian's hands and stepped aside to let the 2 in. Lian, you even brought flowers, she said cheerfully as she put them into a vase. You 2 sit for a while with Yan. I'll go to the kitchen to see if there's anything I can help with, and make an extra dish. During Bai Lian's last measurement session, Gao Shu had left early without having dinner. Today, she had specially invited them for a meal, and she did not expect Jiang Fulai to come too. Gao Yan was picking out films to watch while sitting on the sofa. Seeing Jiang Fulai, she subconsciously stood up. Her gaze then fell on Bai Lian. Lian, come and see if there's anything you want to watch. As the deputy director of the drama theater, Gao Shu had many film and television discs. Bai Lian also liked watching movies, but her recent interest was in plays. She glanced over the discs, noticing 2 without covers on the cabinet beside her, only marked with a sticky note. Blossoms on the Tree rehearsal. Can I watch this? She bent down and picked up the disc. Sure. Jiang Fulai came over, took the disc, and looked down at it. But such rehearsals, unedited and without music, are shot in wide angle. Bai Lian shook her head. It's fine. All right. Jiang Fulai reached out to open the player and placed the disc inside. Gao Yan watched this scene quietly and returned to the kitchen to assist the chef and Gao Shu. The Blossoms on the Tree rehearsal was as Jiang Fulai described, wide angle, unedited, but each actor performed quite well. The main character, Bei Tong, played Chen Yi, which was considered an unofficial history. The other actress, Qin Si, could be considered the second lead, also with significant presence. The recording was not very clear, but Bai Lian had read the script and remembered the lines, making it easy for her to follow. Bai Lian lounged on the sofa, having removed her cape, dressed only in white clothes and a white skirt. Her slender fingertips tapped intermittently on her knee. She began to contemplate the direction of the music and the overall tone. The first part quickly ended, and Jiang Fulai, who had been leaning on the armrest next to her, stood up to change to the second disc for her. Outside, the doorbell rang. With Gao Yin and Gao Shu in the kitchen, Bai Lian got up to open the door. The person outside was also familiar to Bai Lian. It was Secretary Xue. Secretary Xue was not surprised to see Bai Lian. Glancing past her, she saw the aloof figure switching discs and quickly retracted her gaze, not daring to enter. She handed Bai Lian a file. "Miss Bai, this is the document Vice Director Gao requested. Could you please pass it to her for me?" Bai Lian looked down and saw a folder with natural color, only a single word written on it in black pen, "Bai. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 702. 278 is also the second watch, _1 commonly used by her, by Xiangjuan. Bai Lian took the file from Secretary Xue's hand and entered the room. In the kitchen, Gao Shu also heard the faint sound of the doorbell and poked her head out. Lian, is that the document from Secretary Xue? Just put it on the table." Hearing Secretary Xue, Gao Yin, who was watching the chef prepare the food with her arms crossed, also turned her head. "Is it about the theater company?" Gao Yin knew that the theater company had not been progressing well recently. "It's nothing," said Gao Shu, coming in to help the chef. "Teacher Xiao's student is covering for me, and is already working on it." She could cook, having taken care of Jiang Fulai for a while when he was injured as a child. During that time, she cooked everything herself, refusing to let him eat anything not prepared by her hands. Later, when Jiang Fulai regained consciousness and gradually took over the Jiang family's power, she was finally able to relinquish this great responsibility. It was also for this reason that Jiang Fulai had never touched the Gao family, and the Gao family's fortunes had risen ever since. Gao Shu did not harbor thoughts of revenge, but everyone knew that the only person in Jiangjing who could earn Jiang Fulai's respect was Gao Shu. And there's Lian. Gao Yin remembered Bai Lian, who was outside. She had not been interfering with Gao Shu and the chef, just standing in the corner. "Isn't she also writing something?" Mentioning Bai Lian, Gao Shu also smiled. With Bai Lian busy with her studies yet still caring about her theater company's affairs, Gao Shu didn't have high hopes for Bai Lian's work, but was pleased internally. That's true. Gao Shu had arranged the evening's menu early on. But because of Jiang Fulai's arrival, she asked the chef to add 2 more dishes. After the party finished eating and left, Gao Shu saw Bai Lian was still looking at the rehearsal DVD for Blossoms on the Tree, and decided to give her the disc. "Take this with you to watch. There won't be another copy in the future." Bai Lian wrapped herself in her cape, took the DVD from Gao Shu, and left with Jiang Fulai. As she turned around, Gao Shu saw the large patch of poppies embroidered on the back of her cape's hood, and along the hem. Leaning against the doorframe, Gao Shu admired the embroidery on Bai Lian's cape, and thought that the clothes Gao Yin was making for Bai Lian might not be as exquisitely crafted as the ones Bai Lian was wearing. After seeing Bai Lian off, with someone else cleaning up the kitchen, Gao Shu took the materials from Secretary Xue back to her room. When she saw the black letters on the cover, she straightened up. She put on her glasses and carefully opened and examined it. Looking at the sealed file envelope, there was only one piece of paper inside with a few lines of text. Name, by Jian Gender. Unknown age, unknown debut works. Gambling with liquor, autumn again. It could be read at a glance. For a moment, Gao Shu felt her astute secretary was playing a joke on her. She took out her phone and called Secretary Xue. "Xuena, are you serious with this information?" On the other end of the phone, Xuena sighed helplessly. "Boss, this person is really mysterious. I couldn't find anything at all." In the evening after work, Dong Chuan's father left the office. The deputy director was waiting specially at his door, greeting him and making small talk for 10 minutes before letting him go. "That's strange," a colleague commented to Dong Chuan's father. "Isn't Deputy Director Liang someone who doesn't care about anyone except Director Jian?" Dong Chuan's father was also surprised. His father was indeed a distinguished member of the Calligraphy Association, but had long since retired. In the Dong family, he wasn't the most successful one. His son Dong Chuan was much more accomplished. The Liang family member, who descended from on high to become the deputy director, usually looked down on people. This was the first time he had greeted Dong Chuan's father. With puzzlement, Dong Chuan's father went home, and upon seeing the old master, he learned the reason. Dong Chuan and Ren Wanxian had returned that afternoon and told the old master about Jiang Fulai's news in person. Ren Wanxian had to leave for a family banquet later that evening, and though Dong Chuan had not intended to attend the dinner, he decided to go after all. The old master of the Dong family saw the two out the door with Dong Chuan's father, then turned his head towards his son. Have you confirmed this year's exchange participants for Ink and Ocean with the Calligraphy Association and Cultural Bureau? Ink and Ocean, a four-nation calligraphy and painting exchange event. Held once every 3 years, it always drew significant attention. Not only would the entire Cultural Bureau participate, but Chen Leoi would preside over the event personally, with media and journalists from all 4 nations in attendance. There was a segment intended for promoting calligraphy culture among youth and master artists, using Liang-style calligraphy. It would be broadcast live with official cameras focused on them. It was held at the Cultural Square, watched by millions of people online and offline each year. Not yet. They originally recommended a young woman from the Calligraphy Association, Su Yajun, but she's 6 months over the age limit. They plan to hold open auditions. The father discerned the old master's intent. Are you saying? This time, the Calligraphy Association should not refuse. Let Wanxian practice copying diligently lately. She's generous and most likely won't get nervous in front of the official cameras. The old master nodded almost imperceptibly. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 703. 278 is also the second watch, _2 commonly used by her by Xiangjuan. This showcased their calligraphy heritage to the outside world, representing not just the Calligraphy Association. They had to be cautious, then even more cautious. The Mu family. When Ren Wanxian and Dong Chuan returned, the 4 red lanterns outside the gatehouse had already been lighted up. In the dim light, they could see Ji Xiaojun talking to someone. The butler stood behind Ji Xiaojun. As they approached, both Ren Wanxian and Dong Chuan greeted Ji Xiaojun very politely and respectfully. Ji Xiaojun, who was always indifferent to them, just nodded slightly and then continued to talk to the boy. His expression was clearly much warmer when he spoke with the boy. Dong Chuan subconsciously looked at the person opposite, who appeared young, dressed only in a black fleece hoodie, exuding a gentle and easygoing temperament, like an artist who could sketch anywhere with a drawing board in hand. The temperament was very distinct. Unexpectedly, it matched well with Ji Xiaojun. And considering that Ren Wanxian and Ji Xian's relationship had always been average, Dong Chuan felt that this young man seemed more like Ji Xian's nephew. Who is that? He asked Ren Wanxian. Ren Wanxian glanced indifferently at Xiaoqi. Ji Xian's kindness towards Xiaoqi made her uneasy. He treated an outsider better than his own niece. A thug from Purist Street. Someone who used to hang out with Bai Lian. She naturally didn't have a good impression of Xiaoqi, and now it was even heavier. Is that so? Dong Chuan withdrew his gaze thoughtfully. The temperament didn't seem like that of a thug. Outside the gatehouse, under the gentle light, Xiaoqi smiled very politely. Uncle Ji, please feel free to use it. If it breaks, there's more where it came from. It's also fine for holding flowers. It was originally intended for my sister to hold flowers, but Mr. Ming had already brought her a vase, so our boss didn't send it over. The vase was so precious that the butler mentioned it to Ji Xiaojun, who then called Ning Xiao. Xiaoqi personally came to explain. Upon hearing it was initially intended for Bai Lian, Ji Xiaojun was somewhat doubtful. All right, Xiaoqi, would you like to stay for dinner? Thank you, but I need to get back to oversee the place, replied Xiaoqi graciously as he bade farewell to Ji Xiaojun. He got in his car and left. As Ji Xiaojun watched Xiaoqi leave, the butler behind him spoke softly. You seem to like Miss Bei's friend a lot. I always feel a sense of familiarity with him, Ji Xiaojun replied. In the car, Xiaoqi sent a message to Bai Lian, clarifying the situation for her. Shanghai apartment. Bai Lian had just gotten home. While replying to Xiaoqi, she opened the sandalwood box on her desk. Inside was a small black seal, feeling warm, smooth and delicate to the touch. Black as lacquer, oily as fat. An exquisite ink jade dragon turtle seal. She picked up the seal, examined it against the light of the study, then left for 103. In 103, Jiang Fulai had already taken off his coat and stood before a table in the living room, backlit, his features deep, his hands clasped in front of his chest, observing a design for new clothing that Ji Hung was drawing for Lance. Next to him, Jiang He sat at a small table drawing. He had attended a drawing class all day and was now working on his homework assignment from the teacher. Ji Hung was engrossed in drawing, and Jiang Fulai was the first to notice Bai Lian's arrival. He made room for Bai Lian, so she could watch Ji Hung's design drawings. Lance was leaning across from Ji Hung, gesturing at the design. Here, and here should have flowers. Ji Hung ignored his odd and peculiar demands. Not until Ji Hung had finished drawing did Bai Lian show him the black seal she held. Grandpa, he didn't send the wrong thing, did he? It was only then that Jiang Fulai's gaze fell upon the object in Bai Lian's hand. Her fingers were slender, and under the light, they were as white as jade, making the black seal appear even darker. A square seal measuring 4 centimeters on each side. He looked at the seal, his phoenix eyes narrowing slightly. This, said Ji Hung, glancing at the seal in Bai Lian's hand with indifference. You play with it if you like. It's not of much use now anyway. You might be able to sell it later. So casual. Bai Lian tossed the ink-black jade in her palm and replied, all right. Time flies quickly in the winter days. By the end of November, the cape Ji Hung was making for Lance was near completion. Bai Lian also finished the theme song for Blossoms on the Tree, and with the heating on at this time, the warmth was ample in room 302. She sat on the warm carpet in the piano room wearing only a light garment, shoes off, and with one hand transformed the reduced character score into a staff notation. After verifying it was correct, she sent it to Dean Jian. As usual, she composed the music, and Dean Jian arranged it. She had time to learn staff notation, but had little knowledge of modern instruments, so such tasks were best left to the professionals. The Cultural Bureau. Jianzhongyo was organizing an exchange meeting for calligraphy and painting as vast as oceans. Recently, this was the one international event in Jiangjing. So we are arranging for Miss Run with the Calligraphy Association. Vice Director Liang was reporting to him on the side. It was at this moment that Jianzhongyo received Bai Lian's message. It was a translated score with the same name as the drama written on it, Blossoms on the Tree. It was Bai Lian's composition. From October to November, a composition that took a little over a month, this was the most serious piece Bai Lian had ever worked on since Jianzhongyo had known her. Jianzhongyo was stunned for a moment, then stood up abruptly and said to the vice director, I don't understand the affairs of the Calligraphy Association, just coordinate well with them. Having said that, he left in a hurry. After he departed, a few people in the bureau looked at each other. What did Dean Jian see to make him so excited? After working together for so many years, they had never seen Dean Jian this agitated. Being proficient at the guzheng, the overall tone of the song leaned towards the guzheng. Dean Jian went straight back to Jiangyin recording studio and played Blossoms on the Tree, according to the staff notation with the guzheng. A style of music that was calm on the surface, yet turbulent and harboring hidden dangers underneath. Dean Jian, who had never understood the tactic Blossoms on the Tree, now had an image of a magnificent scene in his head. After he finished playing, he was emotionally stirred for a long time. Even the recording staff approached to inquire, Dean Jian, what is the name of this piece? Dean Jian took a deep breath, didn't answer her, and instead made a phone call directly to Bai Lian. He cut straight to the point. Transfer your studies to Jiangyin. Ah! Bai Lian, who had returned to the study room of 303, was taken aback, then realized that Dean Jian must have replicated her entire piece of music. Her tone was casual. I just happen to be good at this style. It's not about being good. Dean Jian's voice was trembling with excitement. Do you realize what this piece of music means to me? Dean Jian, the benchmark of the classical music world. Didn't you say just to take it seriously for a bit? Bai Lian turned on the printer to print out a paper, her brows and eyes cast down. I took it seriously, now it's your turn. Blossoms on the tree, exploiting a situation to lay out a strategy, to wield small force that exerts a great influence. This bluffing tactic to intimidate the enemy was also something Bai Xiangjuan was accustomed to using. This song is beautifully written, absolutely beautiful. Cast a monthly vote for it. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 704. 279 Strong Collaboration, Master-Level Arrangement. Chapter 1. The Final Battle. Chun Yi led so many people to evacuate from Xiangqing. The city, now with only a little over 100 soldiers, had become an empty husk. Bai Lian arranged for these people to be stationed at the city gates, beating the drums daily. None of the usual procedures were missing, and they even created a fog of illusion regarding the arrival of food and supplies, mixing the false with the true. The enemy forces didn't dare to act rashly for the moment. The sword hanging over one's head could only be truly understood by those who had experienced it themselves. I need some time, the dean had previously told Bai Lian with ambition, but when it came to his turn, he feared he would mess up the composition. He hung up the phone. The dean turned to ask the sound engineer, "Did you get that recording just now?" The young girl had never seen the dean so meticulous. "I got it, it's recorded." "Go get your teacher." The dean sat in front of the military drum, put on one side of the headphones, listened to the melody, and tried to record a new drum section, then worked on tuning it. This time he wanted to add piano, bass, and electric guitar to create an atmosphere. That's why the dean wasn't confident in the song by himself. He planned to ask 2 more people for their opinions. The young girl, watching the dean's serious demeanor, suddenly had a guess. Could it be that the great god Bai Jian had released a new song? She was somewhat excited, although the song just now didn't quite match Yanlu's usual style. But then again, Yanlu never had a fixed style. Suppressing her excitement, she quickly opened the door to go find her teacher. Meanwhile, the dean's phone rang, an old acquaintance asking if he was taking on any new composition projects. "It's for teacher Sure, also an old artist. Someone from the drama theater asked me to contact you." Composition. The dean had little patience for these things now, only saying, "I'm not taking any composition work at the moment." After composing for Bai Lian, all other composition work felt flavorless. The dean found it hard to be interested. He hung up the phone and set it to silent mode. After the song was sent to the dean, Bai Lian's busy spell of composing came to an end. She bound the printed papers she had written into a book and walked outside to don her cotton-padded jacket, then stretched out to grab the cloak hanging on the nearby rack, descending the stairs. It was Wednesday, but already last week Tongfeng had arranged for the students to collectively enter the laboratory, with only one full class in the morning and group activities in Jiang University's various labs in the afternoon. Bai Lian and Ning Xiao and the others were assigned to the best laboratory this time, Professor Sun Fuss Plasma Research Laboratory. Room 103. Lance was trying on clothes, having rented the 7th floor of Building 5. A crow-black cloak, a dark gray cotton robe. Ji Hung had restrained himself, but the crow-black cloak was still meticulously embroidered with an assortment of colored peonies. It had a strong design aesthetic. Bai Lian found it a bit too gaudy for the eyes. Lance adored this cloak, wearing it over a simple shirt even indoors. "This is for her." Ji Hung handed a white bag to Bai Lian. "I finished it this morning." As the heating was on and the doors and windows were closed, Ji Hung didn't smoke in the main hall, generally only smoking with Lance in the sunroom of the courtyard. In the bag was a long down coat that Ji Hung had made for Yang Lin. Yang Lin hadn't left Xiangqing since she arrived in the summer, bringing only a thin suitcase with her, and Jiangjing was cold. In a couple of days, snow was expected, and the temperature would drop even further. At the beginning of the month, Ji Hung had planned to make her a warm, long down coat. Without the neighbored embroiderist to help him in Jiangjing, Ji Hung still managed to finish it before the snowfall. Yang Lin was in the open laboratory of the biology building. Bai Lian and Tang Ming had come here to find Yang Lin before, and several senior sisters and brothers in the lab recognized them. Seeing Bai Lian, they greeted her warmly. "Yang Lin is in the 3rd floor lab, junior sister, you can go straight to find her." The laboratory building also had heating. wearing a white cotton-padded jacket with a crabapple red cloak over it. Bai Lian removed the hood of her cloak, smiled at the other party, her eyes gleaming, her presence as fresh as a rainy spring on begonias. "Thank you, Lu Senior Sister." It was only after she had gone that the girl grabbed the sleeve of the person beside her. In utter disbelief, "She actually remembered my name." Third floor. The laboratory was at the end of the hall, with the door ajar. As Bai Lian approached, she could hear Yang Lin's voice. Wearing a long-sleeved t-shirt, she faced away from the door, hands together in a prayer-like pose, addressing a petri dish. "Bacteria Lord, I beg of you, please survive. You are the last bacteria strain that Teacher Xia gave me, please." She bowed at a 90-degree angle very respectfully. Bai Lian. She unfastened her cloak, stood at the doorway for a moment in thought, then silently went back downstairs. "If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 705. 279 Strong Collaboration, Master-Level Arrangement. Chapter 2. She phoned Yang Lin at the stairwell entrance. "Sister Lian," came Yang Lin's calm and mechanical voice over the phone. "Grandpa asked me to bring you something. I'm at the experimental building now," Bai Lian said. Yang Lin's voice was as unvarying as ever, devoid of emotional fluctuation, and she succinctly replied, "The last laboratory on the 3rd floor." Bai Lian hung up the phone and waited at the stairwell entrance for another 2 minutes before heading to the laboratory. The laboratory door was shut tight. When she arrived, Yang Lin was holding a record report in one hand and a black pen in the other, still wearing black-framed glasses, her skin snow-white. Her bangs and glasses concealed her clear and cool eyes. "I'm writing the experimental schedule," Yang Lin said as she placed the pen and report on the table and adjusted her black-framed glasses. Bai Lian's down jacket was already unzipped. She held a cape in one hand and placed her clothes on a chair beside her, speaking at an unhurried pace. "The down jacket Grandpa made for you." After spending a few months with Bai Lian, Ji Heng, and the others, Yang Lin had come to understand them a bit. She didn't refuse and pondered for a moment. "I will visit Grandpa this weekend. If you're busy, don't make a special trip to see him," Bai Lian said as she left. She still had to go to the plasma laboratory and simply waved her hand lazily behind her, knowing that a professor was supervising Yang Lin, and she was busy every day. No rush. After Bai Lian left, in the laboratory, Yang Lin reached out to open the bag. It was a black satin down coat with 4 white toggle buttons specially crafted on the outside of the zipper. The hem and cuffs were embroidered with numerous small blossoms of multicolored lilies and vines. On both sides were 2 large square pockets, the pockets made of velvet, each with a large lily meticulously embroidered on, blooming with elegance. Yang Lin held the down coat, her hands tightening slightly. Jiang University's School of Physics, Experimental Center, Plasma Laboratory. Even for freshmen, especially those from the Tongfeng class, there wasn't much they could help with in the laboratory. They were just getting acquainted with various equipment and experiencing the academic environment in advance. Bai Lian's group was the same, being mentored by Sun Fu's team. The atmosphere among Sun Fu's graduate students was average. When Bai Lian arrived, Tang Ming and Ding Wenyang each carried a jug of mineral water inside. Tang Ming, who had trained with Ming Dongheng and Bai Lian, found carrying a jug of mineral water no challenge, but Ding Wenyang, an academic prodigy since childhood who had never done heavy labor at home, was panting for breath. Bai Lian took off her cape and white down jacket, draped them over her wrist, wearing only a sweatshirt of the same color underneath. As she passed by the two, she glanced at Ding Wenyang and lifted the jug of mineral water from his shoulder. Carrying the water casually, she walked deeper into the corridor. Ding Wenyang, completely bewildered, gave Tang Ming a stiff look. "Tang bro, what's going on?" As Tang Ming effortlessly climbed the stairs with the water jug, he coolly told Ding Wenyang, "Ding bro, you'll get used to it." Bai Lian put the water on the drinking fountain outside, and then entered the laboratory directly. Professor Sun's laboratory was large, consisting of 3 connected rooms. By the experimental table, only Liang Wuyu was recording data. This was the assignment that Professor Sun's laboratory had given to the group of new students, And it was also the recent research direction of Professor Sun's team to purify uranium from seawater using plasma technology. Upon seeing Bai Lian, he looked up to greet her. Where are the other two? Bai Lian asked about Su Jiyue and Ning Xiao. Jiyue is helping sister with printing documents. Liang Wuyu spoke up. Ning Xiao went to get experimental equipment for brother He. The equipment they needed was in the physics building, and it took some time to walk back and forth. As they spoke, a male student dressed in a lab coat with a stack of printouts came over. Bai Lian, Liang Wuyu, good to see you're both here. This is the group assignment for this time. Remember to hand it in on time to me and sister. Liang Wuyu reached out to take the group assignment from Hen Shuyan's hands. After handing it over, Hen Shuyan smiled and said, "This is a creative opportunity for you guys. Thanks for your hard work." Bai Lian went to get a lab coat, putting it on languidly as she smiled nonchalantly at Hen Shuyan. "So should we thank brother He?" She appeared beautiful and non-threatening. Hen Shuyan seemed to detect a hint of sarcasm in her words and looked back at Bai Lian, who still had a lazy demeanor. He turned away, deciding he must have misunderstood. That evening, Bai Lian and her group rushed to complete their group assignment, leaving the laboratory only at 11 o'clock. So tired, Ding Wenyang massaged his own arms, asking Tang Ming beside him, "When did brother He and the others leave?" "Around 6-something. Tang Ming roughly remembered the time. "If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 706. 279 Strong Collaboration. Master-Level Arrangement. Chapter 3. Ding Wenyang sighed. "It still has to be the chief disciple." Bai Lian held a cloak in her hand, not wearing it. Seeing the car parked outside, she recently spent time in the piano room late into the evening, so she hardly went back to the dorm. She didn't go back today either. In the driver's seat, Jiang Fulai's hands were crossed and resting on the steering wheel, the interior light casting deep and distinct features. Always dressed in a cold, color-coordinated style. Exquisite and lazy, meticulously handsome. Bai Lian's mood lifted considerably at the sight. As she got into the car, Jiang Fulai casually tapped the steering wheel, a nearly imperceptible frown showing his dissatisfaction with the time she left the laboratory. "What's keeping the freshmen so late?" Even in his own laboratory, He-Wen and the others were recently busy with a new project, and had only just left. "A project on extracting uranium from seawater," Bai Lian said as she buckled her seatbelt, eyes downcast. "They can refine that? Must cost a pretty penny. Can they even produce new materials?" Mr. Jiang couldn't help but scoff. The laboratories provided to the freshmen by the school were all part of the experimental center. Accustomed to top-tier laboratories, Jiang Fulai seldom found these facilities impressive. Most of the projects seemed quite superficial. Bai Lian gave him a deep, meaningful look. "Of course that's them." Jiang Fulai spoke calmly again. "Have you heard of hydrazine hydrate cellulose?" Though Jiang Fulai didn't research this area, he had attended some lectures and could offer a few suggestions. He started the car and headed off campus, discussing the project topic with Bai Lian. As the headlights switched on, snowflakes began to flutter down from the sky suddenly, and in large clumps. Leaning against the car door, her finger lazily propping up her chin, Bai Lian watched the snowflakes drizzle down outside, her mind wandering slightly. "It's snowing." Jiangjing was cold, and snow had started falling as early as December. Jiang Fulai drove Bai Lian to the parking lot of Shanghai apartment. As the distance to building number 5 was short, she did not don her cloak. The snowflakes spun gently, landing on her eyebrows and the top of her head. After parking the car and turning off the engine, Jiang Fulai walked with her towards the building, their conversation shifting from hydrazine hydrate cellulose to the atmosphere in the laboratories. "It's not just about academic atmosphere," Bai Lian said as she caught a falling snowflake with the cloak in her hand. She leisurely described the plasma laboratory group to Jiang Fulai. As he listened, Jiang Fulai brushed off a few undissolved snowflakes from her head. "There's always some politics where there are people. Some research groups are like that, but most have a very good atmosphere. The Ma Institute's group, for instance, is very decent." Seeing that Ji Heng's courtyard lights were dimmed, Bai Lian didn't bother to greet them. She climbed the stairs to the third floor with Jiang Fulai. Recalling a sudden thought while listening to Jiang Fulai talk about the laboratory, she asked, "Is it true that no one dares to speak up in your lab?" Given Jiang Fulai's tendency to provoke with just a few words, "It's all right," Jiang Fulai replied indifferently. "There are more who focus on the actual work without too much cunning. Anyone slightly complex, like Gao Jiechen, even if from the Gao family, he would not accept." After sending Bai Lian home, Jiang Fulai returned to 302. After thinking for a moment, he went to the study, turned on the phone, and made a video call. On the other end, Academician Ma had just got home not long ago. Investment or equipment? No. Jiang Fulai settled into his chair, his phoenix eyes narrowed, tone casual. "Oh, goodbye." Academician Ma reached out, about to hang up the video call. Jiang Fulai leaned back. "I just sent her home, talked about the laboratory." Academician Ma's mouth twitched at his "just sent her home." But knowing Jiang Fulai was reaching out about Bai Lian, he didn't disconnect. "What about it? What's up with the lab?" Director Jian's music composition cycle was also longer than usual this time. He had provided the main theme by Wednesday. On Sunday noon, Bai Lian received a call from Director Jian while dining at 103. At the table, Shen Qing and Tang Ming, Yang Lin, and others were present. The table was laden with fish caught by Ji Heng, Lance, and Director Chen. Shen Qing and Director Chen were the main chefs, preparing fish head pots and a large plate of sauerkraut fish. Holding her phone, Bai Lian stepped into the sunroom to take the call. There was no heating on the outside, but with glass all around and the glass doors of the hall open, it wasn't particularly cold. Standing before a potted plant, she watched as Ji Heng's peony bloomed. Director Jian. Director Jian had spent several days living in the recording studio, not getting enough sleep, yet he remained incredibly energized. "It's done. The chorus isn't very rich. I left some space. Let me play it for you first." The sound was still being burned onto a CD, so he directly played the demo of Blossoms on the Tree live for Bai Lian. With the addition of military drums and saxophone, blending the sounds of the pipa and bamboo flute, the music oscillated between tension and relaxation. The few seconds of silence in the chorus were a masterful touch, catapulting the tension to its peak. The next moment, the vigorous sounds of the Guzheng matrix clashed boldly and fiercely. Even Bai Lian was moved by the demo. 2 minutes later, Bai Lian finally spoke, an astounding display of creativity. "Truly the work of a master composer. I discussed it with old Ian," said Director Jian. "It'll take an hour to burn the CD. Once it's ready, I'll deliver it to you." The quality of the CD burned in the recording studio was high, intended for use by the opera house. Director Jian had the CD directly burned. Transferring via the internet could affect sound quality, and he would not tolerate any flaw in this song. "Okay," said Bai Lian as she hung up the call. She looked down to see a new message on WeChat. It was from Gao Shu. Lian, there is a rehearsal of the first half of Blossoms on the Tree this afternoon. Do you have time to come and watch?" Gao Shu knew Bai Lian was very interested in Blossoms on the Tree. This month there had been 2 rehearsals, and she had mentioned to Bai Lian about attending, but Bai Lian, because of her project and work with Academician Ma, hadn't gone. Bai Lian regarded Gao Shu's message and leisurely replied with a word. "Okay, if you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 707. Fighting for 280, Bai Lian's theme song. Second update. _1 When Dean Jian arrived at Shanghai apartment, Bai Lian was upstairs talking to Xiaoqi. Xiaoqi was telling her about Xingyi Martial Arts School and the medical hall. The solid foundation paste from Xingyi Martial Arts School had successfully broken out of the small business circle. Hen Jiwei had also taught several sitting doctors about myopia acupuncture, which had been fully promoted in Xiangqing. Xiankong Pharmacy became a national chain enterprise and entered the Jiangjing Chamber of Commerce. In just 1 year, despite the pressure from the Luo family pharmaceutical and the traditional Chinese medicine market, they broke through to the chain pharmaceutical market, and Zioki's contributions were indispensable. The only acupuncture that hadn't been popularized had a long treatment cycle, requiring more than 2 months. Many people inherently distrust traditional Chinese medicine, which made it difficult to promote in Jiangjing and other places. Xiaoqi was determined to spread this technique worldwide. He sat at the small tea table in Bai Lian's study, leisurely pouring himself a cup of tea. The tea here was always exceptional. Has Dr. Lance's myopia been completely cured? Bai Lian flipped through a report and then handed it to Xiaoqi. What do you have in mind? After finishing his tea, Xiaoqi said, I want to invite Mr. Lance for a one-day tour at Xiankong Pharmacy. He's in 103. Go discuss it with him. Bai Lian knew that Xiaoqi and Mao Kuan both knew Lance, as it was Mao Kuan who introduced him in the beginning. The two left the study. Outside, Zhang Xiais was sitting at the table, not doing problem sets today, but engrossed in a thick law book, the seriousness of his demeanor replacing his usual casualness. It wasn't until he heard noise that he finally showed a bit of his usual irreverent air, and seeing Bai Lian about to leave, he looked somewhat anxious. Sister Lian, where are you going? To the theater, Bai Lian said, picking up her cloak and heading out. Zhang Xiais watched her leave, and under Ming Dongheng's expressionless gaze, he wondered how he was going to get through Jiang Fulai's questions in the afternoon without Bai Lian there. With Bai Lian around, Jiang Fulai could hold back his disdain for Zhang's foolishness. Once Bai Lian left, Jiang Fulai had only one look left. Are you sure you want to go to the University of Political Science and Law and spread your nonsense? The theater. Xue Na, wearing a thick long down jacket, arrived 10 minutes early and was waiting at the main entrance of the theater. The cars owned by the Jiang family had special numbers, including the business vehicle Ming Dongheng usually drove, which stood out in the traffic with its distinct feel. Xue Na had indeed heard that Jiang Fulai's cars were specially modified, with each window being bulletproof. As she thought about this, she went to greet them. The rear door of the car opened automatically. Bai Lian, holding her cloak, got out. She had her hair half tucked up, and as she bent over, her black hair fell to her chest. As she did not need to walk outdoors today, she hadn't worn a cotton-padded coat. She was dressed in a white satin cross-collared shirt with light golden patterns embroidered, shimmering with reflected light, exuding an air of nobility, and a scarlet pleated skirt beneath it. When touched by sunlight, it sparkled like cold light reflected on snow. Quite a striking palette. As she stepped out of the car, she casually threw the cloak over her shoulders, every gesture exuding the grace of nobility, and she greeted Xue Na, Secretary Xue. Wearing a scarlet cloak that matched her pleated skirt, adorned with embroidered flowers and blue butterflies as if ready to take flight, fluttering gently in the wind. Bright yet restrained and warm elegance. A very distinctive temperament. Due to the special nature of her job, Secretary Xue had seen many beautiful people, but even having seen Bai Lian several times, she was still taken aback upon first sight, and it took her a moment to recover. Miss Bai, it's cold outside, let me take you in. She led the way, noticing that Bai Lian was holding a black disc case. The exterior wall of the theater was covered in a layer of snow, with the columns at the entrance clearly defined. Outside, there was also a giant poster announcing Blossoms on the Tree, to be performed on Saturday evening at 7 o'clock. It was evident that the theater placed great importance on this play. With the theater undergoing renovations this afternoon, and not open to the public, Secretary Xue led Bai Lian through the backstage to the lobby, a curved and expansive space. A grand staircase led directly to the second floor. On the stage in front, the crew was setting up, and rehearsals were about to begin. Gao Shu was talking sporadically with a man in his 30s on the left side of the stage. This is a younger member of our family, Gao Shu introduced to the man beside her as soon as Bai Lian arrived. The man promptly greeted Bai Lian. Gao Shu also quietly explained the man's identity to Bai Lian. This is Mr. Summer's student, who came to Jiangjing especially for the composition of Blossoms on the Tree. Bai Lian nodded her acknowledgement. She had heard about this from Gao Shu. As they conversed, the old dean arrived. His hair was gray, his eyes behind presbyopic glasses, exuding a great deal of authority. He sat in the middle, and Gao Shu went to greet him. The rehearsal today focused on an earlier segment. Drama is a very direct form of performance. Bai Lian sat to the side, watching the segment intently. The character in the play, modeled after Chen Yi, also included scenes featuring the actor playing by Zhongyu. She watched with rapt attention. The first half lasted only an hour, and after it finished, the two leads did not take a bow. The sound of music began to play. The rhythm of the music, emphasized by drum beats, drew Bai Lian out of her emotional immersion. She looked up at the stage. The male and female leads were singing the theme song. Meanwhile, Jiao Yinghui was talking to the old dean. "Dean, this is the theme song Mr. Shua composed for Blossoms on the Tree. We wanted to ask Dean Jian to do the arrangement, but he didn't have the time. Please listen." As the prelude played, the old dean sat up straight with interest. The theme song matched the rhythm of Blossoms on the Tree perfectly, with its narrative building up tension. It was evident that there was a study of new drama involved. After the song ended, the old dean nodded. He looked at Shua Qingyu and nodded slightly. "This theme song is very intriguing, well done." For the usually strict dean, this was already exceptionally high praise. After listening to Dean Jian's demo and then this theme song, Bai Lian didn't feel much of anything. She glanced at Jiao Yinghui and figured that this was probably the person who had tried to snatch someone away from Gao Shu midway through. Beside her, the student of Mr. Xia stood up after listening, and without a word, walked out through the backstage. Gao Shu immediately followed, signaling Secretary Xue to take Bai Lian for a walk around the theater. Bai Lian asked about a few things concerning Jiao Yinghui and Shua Qingyu. Secretary Xue recounted a few minor disputes between the two, and Bai Lian contemplated them thoughtfully. Only when Gao Shu was about to be done did Secretary Xue take Bai Lian to the second-floor lounge and brewed a pot of tea for her. Secretary Xue waited outside the lounge until Gao Shu came up from downstairs, then nervously inquired, "What did he say?" She was asking about Mr. Xia's student. "He said he couldn't compete with Mr. Shua in composition and left early. I had Oldly take him to the airport." Gao Shu massaged her temple, looking rather helpless. She had listened to Mr. Xia's student's work too, and indeed, it couldn't compare to Shua Qingyu's. Shua Qingyu had prepared for this opportunity for a long time. Ordinary works simply couldn't compete. Even the old dean had praised him repeatedly. The first performance would start next Saturday, and the day after tomorrow was the old dean's final deadline. To the side, Jiao Yinghui and Shua Qingyu, along with the two leads, made their way from the end of the corridor lively. "I've booked a private room at Qingxin Building for 6 p.m. The dean will be there later too. You all must come. Mr. Shua, rest assured, am still in contact with Dean Jian. He's been busy lately, but we'll definitely have an opportunity to collaborate on the next piece." Jiao Yinghui said with a smile and passing to Gao Shu, "Vice Dean Gao, am not staying late today, I'll be going first." Shua Qingyu was aware that Jiao Yinghui could indeed get in touch with Dean Jian, so even in front of Gao Shu he didn't feel the slightest bit guilty. The group departed. "Boss," Secretary Xue asked, "should we still keep Beitong and the others to practice the theme song?" "Forget it." Gao Shu pushed the door and entered the lounge. "Let them go have a meal. We're giving up on this theme song." He managed to invite even Dean Jian himself to do the arrangement. What more can I say? The bond with Lu Jia was strong, yet she had not managed to persuade him to come out of retirement. Are we really giving up? After months of effort, at this critical juncture, Secretary Xue found it difficult to voice the notion of giving up. If Vice Dean Jiao did ascend to the position, then Gao Shu would truly be marginalized. But the disparity was there for all to see. Mr. Xia's student had already conceded defeat and left Jiangjing on his own accord. Sighing, Secretary Xue thought to confront whatever came their way. As she picked up her mobile phone to notify Beitong and Qinxi not to stay late for practice. Inside the lounge, Bai Lian was on the phone with Ji Heng, who asked if she would come back for dinner that evening. "I will." Glancing as Gao Shu entered the room, Bai Lian stood up. "Xianming is already waiting downstairs." Bai Lian picked up her cloak and ended the call. "Are you leaving now?" "I've already called the chef over." Gao Shu shook off her thoughts, still speaking softly to Bai Lian. "Don't go back. I'll make you one of my specialties today." Bai Lian didn't respond, simply passing the CD she held in her hand to Gao Shu. "What is this?" Gao Shu asked, puzzled. In the past month, Gao Shu had been frequently exchanging details with Mr. Xia's student, and he had reached out to her often. Bai Lian had never asked Gao Shu anything. Gao Shu had forgotten that Bai Lian was also composing a theme song for Blossoms on the Tree. The theme song for Blossoms on the Tree. Bai Lian dusted off her slightly wrinkled sleeve, draped her cloak elegantly and lifted her eyes, smiling calmly and breezily. I thought, you probably wouldn't have time to cook these past few days. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 708. Miss by 281 is that composing genius_1 theme music itself can't constitute drama, but once integrated into the background, it can more directly influence the audience's emotions and expand the drama's expressiveness. The Old Dean's Blossoms on the Tree took so long to create because it's an original drama that the theater has been heavily promoting in recent years. The theme song is not just a promotional track, but will also be integrated into the background music of the play. Most people indeed wouldn't dare to take on this task. Secretary Shui and Gao Shu escorted Bai Lian downstairs, and as Ming Dongheng's car drove away, Secretary Shui curiously looked at the CD in Gao Shu's hand. Miss Bai actually wrote it? The arrangement is done too? She can compose and arrange music? I didn't expect it either. Gao Shu walked back to the office, where the computer can play CDs. The two reached the office, and Gao Shu bent down to turn on the computer directly, while Secretary Shui opened the black CD case, revealing the logo inside, Jiangjing Music Academy. There was also a printed sheet of musical notation. Is it a CD recorded at Jiangyin? Secretary Shui was somewhat stunned, since Jianjian's recording studios aren't easily accessible to just anyone. Gao Shu took the silver CD she picked up and inserted it, not as surprised. When the CD was inserted, Gao Shu clicked on the drive and played the music inside. Secretary Shui took the opportunity to make Gao Shu a cup of tea, guessing that Gao Shu would definitely want to drink tea while enjoying the song, and might even need to loop it several times. She handed the tea to Gao Shu. Tomorrow we'll find a singer to release this song. At this moment, both of them felt much better, although they had almost never thought of using Bai Lian's song as the theme tune. The recording was rushed, the video had no content, just pitch black, and as the blue progress bar appeared below, the dense drum beats pulled in from afar. Gao Shu and Secretary Shui were originally laughing and discussing, but upon hearing the introduction, Gao Shu, who was sipping tea with lowered eyes, immediately straightened up. She suddenly looked up and put down her teacup, her wrist resting on the desk, and her previously lax posture leaning back in the chair. She now sat upright. The demo was a trial singing version. When the beautiful female voice joined in the middle, Gao Shu and Secretary Shui felt goosebumps. During the chorus, the pipa sound vanished for a few seconds, leaving only the melodious singing. It was like the calm before a storm, with dark clouds obscuring the sun, bringing quiet yet suffocating tension. Gao Shu's fingers, resting on the table, twitched slightly. The next second, when the Guzheng matrix started, she felt a chill down her spine, as if leaves were breaking through the air, and her cheek was scratched by a leaf carrying a threatening aura. The 4-minute and 59-second track finished quickly, and after the player finished the song without looping, it stayed in a ready-to-play state. However, the two in the office couldn't react, as they had watched the rehearsals several times and were too familiar with the plot. Even people unfamiliar with the story would be swayed by the undercurrents in the lyrics, let alone them. After a while, Gao Shu snapped back to reality and clicked the play button with her mouse once more. After listening once, they played it several more times. After a good long while, she finally exhaled deeply, her knuckles whitening slightly as she pressed on the table, her chest heaving. Shui na, go and ask Beitong and Qin Si to come over. If just after hearing the song written by Shua Qingyu, she felt that it encapsulated the tension of Blossoms on the Tree very well. A student of teacher Xiao's music composition indeed had no comparison. Even laypeople could discern the good from the bad. Now, with the song that Bai Lian had brought out, the sense of calm yet hidden danger it evoked was several levels higher than Shua Qingyu's work. Not to mention Gao Shu, even Secretary Shui could tell the difference in quality. At this point, Gao Shu finally understood why Bai Lian had left with that remark. You won't have time to cook these next few days. This time Shui Na didn't send a text, but went directly backstage to find the two main actors. Today, Jiao Yinghui invited the male and female leads, as well as the old dean, to a meal. Beitong and Qin Si, the two leads, had just changed out of their costume clothing and removed their makeup to change into their own clothes. When Xuena arrived, Beitong had already picked up his military coat, ready to leave the backstage. It was evident that he was excited, looking forward to the gathering. Both were meticulously selected young people who had secured the leading male and female roles in Blossoms on the Tree, destined to become the backbone of the theater company. Secretary Xue. Beitong's appearance was not the typical idol in entertainment circles, but rather rugged, with highly adaptable features. Having listened to Bai Lian's composition, Xuena felt much more relaxed, dispelling the aimlessness of the afternoon. She mentioned to the two leads about going straight to Gao Shu's office later to get familiar with the theme song. After Xuena left, Beitong's phone rang again. It was Jiao Yinghui's assistant inquiring about their whereabouts. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 709. Miss by 281 is that composer genius _2. Beitong hesitated, before saying they hadn't left yet. After hanging up the phone, Beitong exchanged a glance with Qin Si. Between Jiao Yinghui and Gao Shu, neither was easy to offend, and not attending the dinner invited by Jiao Yinghui. Wasn't that losing face for him? Gao Shu had arranged to practice singing with them after rehearsal in the morning, and although they had just been informed that the practice was unnecessary, Secretary Xue had come in person. 2 big shots. Qin Si suggested, "How about one of us attends the dinner, and the other goes to get familiar with the song? We can explain to each other?" Beitong put on his scarf, spoke without changing his expression. "Then you go to Vice President Gao's office. You are more familiar with her and both of you are women. I'll go to Qingxin building." Mentioning women was just a pretext. In this round of the game, observing the old dean's reaction, Jiao Yinghui clearly had a slight edge. And moreover, it is said that the composer Gao Shu invited has already returned to Beicheng. Whether to practice the song or not, Beitong felt that it wasn't very meaningful, as it was almost confirmed to be Shua Qingyu's piece. Gao Shu's office. After Xuena returned, Bai Lian's song was still playing on loop on the computer. She approached, marveling. "How did Miss Bai come up with this? Is she really a student at Jiang University?" Not only is she a student at Jiang University, but she is also the top scorer of the college entrance examination, Gao Shu said with a smile. Originally thinking that Bai Lian was just playing around, Gao Shu didn't take the child's actions seriously. Who would have thought that in the end, she would give herself such a pleasant surprise, this feeling of stumbling upon treasure. It's said that the university is the forefront of humanity, Secretary Xue sighed. While attending classes, she composed this song. She truly understands this play. The old dean must really like it. Outside, Qin Si knocked on the door. Gao Shu paused the music and let her in. Qin Si was recommended by Gao Shu herself, and the two were considered familiar. She explained the situation on behalf of Beitong to Gao Shu. But those who could sit here understood the twists and turns of this place. Gao Shu didn't speak, but Secretary Xue chuckled. "Boss, the demo that Miss Bai provided had only a female voice. Her composition seems more suitable for a female voice. How about we let Qin Si do all the recording?" Her words surprised Qin Si. To record a song meant that after the old dean made a decision, they would first record the theme song, extract the background music, and finally post it to the official account of the theater as a promotional effort. Why did Secretary Xue's words seem to presume that the old dean would choose their song? Bai Lian returned to Shanghai apartment, nearing 6 o'clock. Dean Shua had been tense for half a month and was relaxing in room 103, planning to go ice fishing with Ji Heng next week. Bai Lian took a plate of fruit to room 303. Jiang Fulai returned from the lab in the afternoon, his face cold as he checked on Zhang Shi's learning progress. The scene was tragically poignant. Even Qi Yundai, who wasn't present, was innocently dragged into it. It wasn't until Bai Lian returned that the battle situation eased somewhat. Bai Lian pushed open the door, hung her cloak on the rack in the corner, and noticed Zhang Shiai standing respectfully in front of Jiang Fulai. A departure from the strict demeanor she saw before she left. Jiang Fulai sat in his chair, a black pen held between his pale fingers, drawing a line on Zhang Shi's math paper, his phoenix eyes looking down, his voice indifferent. Last Saturday, the second major problem that Ning Xiao explained was similar to this one. It really is terrifying how good some people's memories are. Zhang Xi's bowed his head and apologized proficiently. Jianggu, I'm sorry. Bai Lian walked over to see Zhang Shi's score on the recent monthly exam spread out on the table. 629, ranked 107th in the entire school. A rank of 107th in the affiliated middle school meant there was no need to worry about University of Political Science and Law. Qi Yundai was planning to take him there for a moot court simulation this week. His grandmother was already preparing fireworks at home for these scores. For Zhang Xi's, he could never achieve such a score in 10 lifetimes. But for Jiang Fulai, this level of difficulty was so low he could pass with his feet. Not only Jiang Fulai, but Zhang Xi's had also been taught by Hewen Xinglihong, Ning Xiao, Tang Ming, and included by Lian. A group of geniuses from Jiang University had already done all they could. Jiang Fulai felt embarrassed to even mention he had tutored this matter. Bai Lian crossed her arms in front of her chest, leaning lazily on the table, watching for a while without speaking for Zhang Xi's. Jiang Fulai scolded him for a few minutes, then let him go right down the corrections to his mistakes. Bai Lian handed him a strawberry. Teacher Jiang, have some fruit, cool down. Zhang Xi's, standing aside, breathed a sigh of relief. Jiang Fulai took the strawberry, calmed down, and started discussing serious matters with Bai Lian. Make sure you take your research group's paper seriously. He didn't state the reason. Are you sure? Bai Lian raised an eyebrow. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 710. Miss by 281 is that composing genius _3 Jiang Fulai pinched a strawberry, took a bite, and the sweet taste spread. He said in an unhurried tone, right. Monday morning. Xiaoqi took Lance on a tour of the official Xiankong website, and by the afternoon, a flurry of news had flooded all the major browsers. Oh my god. Acupuncture can actually cure myopia. This is actually true. I watched it 3 times and still can't believe it. Completely defies your imagination. Without Lance even knowing, he appeared in shock reports on the headlines of major browsers. Since the medical conference had just ended, Lance's popularity from the conference naturally went without saying. Once the netizens did a bit of science popularization, with Lance leading the way, the effect of celebrity endorsement was beyond question. At this point, quite a few netizens from Xiangqing who had already cured their myopia came forward to corroborate the story, making Xiangqing traditional Chinese medicine clinic catch fire again. In the follow-up, the first group of people who went to try acupuncture at Xiankang's various branches was not in short supply. There were even quite a few internet celebrities who took this opportunity to carve out a brand new route for themselves in new media. Day N of checking in for Xianhu myopia acupuncture, they documented the entire check-in process. And they recorded the process of continuous eyesight improvement, sparking a trend of checking in at Jiangjing for traditional Chinese medicine acupuncture, no less popular than the previous Xiangqing trend. The name of Hen Jiwei, the resident doctor at Jiangjing's main store, became a hot topic within a short 2 days. Thursday. Plasma Laboratory. In the past few days, Bai Lian had been discussing with Ning Xiao the possibility of plasma seawater purification. Jiang Fulai asked her to take it seriously, so she temporarily stopped the research at Ma Institute. She suggested 2 possibilities to Ning Xiao, but they needed experimental verification. And Ning Xiao looked towards the inside of the laboratory. You cannot enter laboratories 2 and 3. Hen Xuyan said with a frown, seeing Bai Lian and Ning Xiao standing outside the second door of the lab. Bai Lian, Ning Xiao, have you finished calculating the data? Don't run around. Senior Hen. Tang Ming came over with a smile, inserting himself in the middle. The data are here. Bai Lian didn't speak, only walked back with her phone, pondering about taking Ning Xiao to Ma Institute's laboratory over the weekend. Since the National Day, she had almost been going to Ma Institute's laboratory every weekend, using various precision instruments. She hardly ever forgot what she saw and could operate more instruments than Hen Xuyan. Therefore, there was no need to get familiar with the instruments in the external laboratory, and the task of data that was assigned during the group meetings was quickly calculated by her. Most of the massive data assigned to Tangming and Su Jiuyue was organized by her. She returned outside and continued looking at her printed-out paper. Her phone lit up with a message from Gao Shu. Gao Shu wanted to discuss the copyright fee with her. Gao Shu. Qin Si has already recorded it. The song will be kept secret until its release, and a snippet will be posted on the official site. Also, who did the arrangement and the lyrics? The old dean is very surprised. He would like to meet you guys too. Bai Lian put the paper aside, leaned back, and her slender fingertips tapped on the phone screen, typing out a line of text. Bai Lian. No need, it's a free gift, on the other side of the phone. Gao Shu looked at the message from Bai Lian on her phone, feeling somewhat helpless. Secretary Shui came in with a stack of documents and saw Gao Shu sitting on the sofa. Boss? Gao Shu put down her phone and sighed. I originally wanted to help her and her friend to gain some popularity. Such a good song, I didn't expect she'd say it's a free gift. I've already found some marketing accounts, Secretary Shui pondered. This song won't be buried, don't worry. National Theater. Beitong. Why haven't you recorded the song yet? Blossoms on the Tree was set to debut on Saturday, and Beitong and Qin Si had been getting familiar with the stage in the past few days, ensuring that nothing would go wrong. Strangely, Beitong hadn't recorded the song they had agreed on beforehand. When a colleague asked, Beitong also felt puzzled. Maybe recording doesn't need to be paused anymore. He had no other suspicions after all. The dinner he had last time was quite satisfactory. He didn't talk much at the table, and although the old dean didn't say much either, he acknowledged the work of Shuo Qingyu. There shouldn't be any accidents. 7 o'clock in the evening. The official account of the National Theater posted a 1-minute song news clip. V Theater. This Saturday at 7 o'clock, Blossoms on the Tree passionately performed. A work officially launched after 5 years. Under the Weibo post, there was a 1-minute promotional theme music video. Theatrical plays have always been somewhat niche. Young people don't pay much attention. Once a Weibo post was made, there were only a few dozen comments below, and no one had clicked on the promotional video. The staff managing the theater's Weibo account also left it alone after posting, not expecting much. The theater's official Weibo seldom got replies, which he was used to. At the same time, in the Baijian super topic, a bunch of people were urging. It's been almost 4 months. This has never happened before at Yanlu at Jiangjing Music Academy. Can you hurry them up? Last month, when the Chinese Music Awards nominations came out, why hasn't Baijian released a new song, also trended on the hot search? One can imagine the grudges of the netizens. Until a Weibo post barged into everyone's view. Everyone go check out the Weibo just retweeted by at Jiangjing Music Academy. Netizens followed the tag to check it out. 3 minutes ago, Jiangjing Music Academy retweeted and commented. Congratulations. 10 minutes later, Yan Lu retweeted and commented on the official Weibo of the theater. Congratulations, the traffic to Jiangjing Music Academy was not too heavy. But everything spiraled out of control when the ever-popular Yan Lu retweeted the post. The official Weibo of the theater was instantly overwhelmed by responses, and that's when the fans who viewed the video increased substantially. The traffic was massive, including hardcore fans of Yan Lu, and die-hard fans of Baijian and Jian, who despite the video being only 1 minute long, had goosebumps throughout watching it. Recognizing the exquisite arrangement style and the composition and lyrics, some fans smelled something fishy right away, and asked the Jiangjing Music Academy if the song was by those two. The Jiangjing Music Academy replied, "Classmate, you have good taste." 8 o'clock in the evening. Gao Shu had just finished dealing with office matters, ready to head home. Blossoms on the Tree was about to premiere, and the dean was satisfied with the theme song and highly recognized her ability, entrusting most matters to her, keeping her busy every day. Secretary Shui hurried in from outside. "Boss, have you seen Weibo?" "What happened?" Gao Shu picked up the coat hanging nearby, as she seldom paid attention to Weibo. "Weibo has exploded. It looks like I don't need to buy views for the official account." Secretary Shui handed her the phone. "Miss Bai, is she the composing genius behind Yan Lu?" Is the arranger of this song Dean Jian? Gao Shu's heart skipped a beat, and as she looked down, she saw the hot search page. Hot search number 2. Yen Lu retweeted Weibo. Hot search number 1 frowny face by Jian's latest composition of the year, Blossoms on the Tree. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 711. 282 It's too late for regrets. Brother Jiang is on the phone, Part 1. _1 Blossoms on the Tree, according to official confirmation, was still composed and arranged by those two individuals. The lead vocalist was no longer Yen Lu. Everyone turned their attention to the new lead vocalist, Qin Si. A professional stage actor, stage acting is niche, and they don't have the same level of popularity as the entertainment industry. But because of this 1-minute segment led by Qin Si singing Blossoms on the Tree, she went viral. Qin Si's appearance in the video was also widely approved by netizens. Everyone knows the disdain hierarchy. Stars in an instant, her followers surged from tens of thousands to over 1 million. People flocked to comment on the theater's official Weibo. Why is it only a minute? Is there anything we SVIPs can't see? Official, open up, I won't be able to sleep tonight. Okay, I got a ticket for Saturday night at 7 o'clock, picture. I will report to you all on time. The tickets for Blossoms on the Tree, on Saturday, several thousand of them, and although a few hundred were unsold, within 1 minute they were all snatched up. The person in charge of the theater's official Weibo had just posted and returned home for dinner when his phone was bombarded with calls. His boss called him directly. Edit the video quickly, replace it. The Weibo guy received a brand new video, and before even opening it to see what was added, he immediately went on Weibo to replace the video at the behest of his superior. But as soon as he accessed it, his phone crashed from the overload. Almost instantly, hundreds of thousands of likes and messages popped up, shocking him. Even though he knew Secretary Shui was buying likes, could it really be this effective? He nervously clicked to replace the video, and the next second, he saw the comment with 210,000 likes, Yen Lu. Congratulations. And below were a bunch of Jian, and by Jian comments. He opened the video and saw it was still a 1-minute video with nothing replaced, except there was a new caption added. Blossoms on the Tree lyricist, by Jian composer, by Jian arranger, Jian vocals, Qin Si. When Bai Lian returned to 407, it was after 10 o'clock. She could still hear Kong Wei and Yu Simin engaged in a heated discussion, while Sun Qian sat in her spot, quietly reviewing her books. Qin Si, this Miss Qin was the top professional to join, as expected. Their designated singers are no ordinary individuals. Kong Wei wore headphones and wasn't playing anything out loud, but one could see that she was refreshing the short video page. Netizens are incredible. With Qin Si's sudden rise to fame, they dug out her previous stage drama clips and set them to a 10-second chorus from Blossoms on the Tree. This combination of the song and Qin Si spread quickly across various short video apps, together with the theater. Blossoms on the Tree was an original script from the theater, built on traditional cultural attire and illusions. Seeing its popularity, the theater's officials were very generous with the traffic. It became another hot topic recently, along with the acupuncture craze. Why do we have to wait until after the performance on Saturday to release the full song? I can't wait anymore. Kong Wei took off her headphones to discuss with Yu Simin for a moment, then turned to Bai Lian. Do you know a bit of insider info? Will Yen Lu continue to sing in the future? With Qin Si's sudden emergence, replacing Yen Lu as the singer for the two bigwigs, netizens were discussing whether Yen Lu would stop singing altogether. Yu Simin also stared intently at Bai Lian. Bai Lian hung her pure white cloak beside her seat, and, dressed in a fleece-lined stand-up collar shirt, leaned lazily against the chair back. She opened her black laptop, her snow-white fingertips resting on the keyboard, and spoke with conviction. She will. That's great. Kong Wei and Yu Simin both breathed a sigh of relief, visibly relaxing. I just knew she would. Ever since Bai Lian casually produced 2 signed photos of Yen Lu the last time, Kong Wei and Yu Simin were certain she had special relationships and channels, especially with Ming Dongheng looking like a counterterrorism expert. Kong Wei scrolled her phone for a while longer, and upon receiving a notification, she stood up abruptly. I got an appointment for Xian Kang's myopia slots this weekend. Really? Yu Simin pushed off neatly with her feet, sliding her chair across. Let me see. Xian Kang was recently in demand, and the appointments at all Jiangjing branches were already booked until next month. Notably, He Jiwei had to consult hundreds of patients daily, and he claimed he could place acupuncture needles precisely even with closed eyes. Bai Lian quietly tapped on her keyboard, refining the experiment she and Ning Xiao had proposed. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 712. 282 It's too late for regrets. Brother Jiang is on the phone. Part 1. _2 Remembering something. She flipped back to the WeChat page of Academician Ma. Can you bring Ning Xiao with you to the lab this weekend? The plasma low-temperature test bench. It took a few minutes before Academician Ma replied. Preparing new materials? By Jian. For the paper. Academician Ma. Understood. Bai Lian sent the new experiment plan to Ning Xiao and told him to prepare to go to the laboratory with her this weekend. Behind her, Sun Qian was bowing her head all the time. Her cool and gorgeous face seemed distracted, as if she was hesitating. After half an hour, Sun Qian finally opened her own locker, took out 3 gift boxes, and distributed them to the 3 dormitory roommates. These are the gifts I ordered for you guys, and they just arrived today. After Bai Lian had finished giving gifts last time, Sun Qian had been thinking about what to give in return. She had ordered these luxury items, which arrived a bit late at the end of the year. Only that they were not as valuable as Bai Lian's hair clip. That was why she was hesitating. Kong Wei opened the gift box and found a beige plaid scarf from the well-known Ji brand. She was hesitant. Sun, this is too extravagant. She had only shared some local specialties with her 3 roommates. Sun Qian watched Kong Wei clip her bangs with the pink diamond hairpin. Yu Simin pushed the gift box to Kong Wei. When one man gets into a position, all his friends get in too. You just keep it. The scarf for Bai Lian was pure white and very soft. She didn't stand on ceremony with Sun Qian and directly accepted it. Thank you. The other 2 also accepted the gifts with politeness, and Kong Wei had no choice but to silently carry the scarf to her bed. Sun Qian also tidied up her own desk, and before going to bed, she remembered something and invited her 3 roommates. My birthday is next weekend. Saturday morning. Despite the cold weather in Jiangjing, blossoms on the tree hadn't even started, and already the theater entrance was packed with people. The most devoted fans were holding support signs for Qin Si, with pictures featuring her character. The theater staff had not anticipated that followers from the entertainment industry would be so crazy, arriving early in the cold morning to camp out. They urgently called in dozens of security guards to maintain order. At noon, Qin Si, Bei Tong, and other actors from Blossoms on the Tree arrived, preparing for their first performance at 7 in the evening. As soon as Qin Si got off the car, the crowd surged forward with a whoosh. Fortunately, the security had set up barricades, and the fans were sensible enough not to break through. Qin Si. Sister, can I get an autograph? Someone handed a postcard to Qin Si. Sister, have you ever met Bai Jian in person? Qin Si felt like she was dreaming these past few days. The number of her followers on Weibo had already reached 3 million. She had also connected with Yan Lu, took the postcard and said, Thank you everyone. I hope you will pay more attention to our Blossoms on the Tree. While smiling, she promoted the play and signed autographs and took photos with all the fans present. She was humble and generous, not showing the slightest bit of affectation common among celebrities. She's probably the most popular in the troupe now. Bei Tong's companion turned to glance at Qin Si, who was signing autographs inside. It's all thanks to Vice President Gao. He really pulled off a masterstroke by bringing in President Jian and Bai Jian. Yesterday, during rehearsal, when they used that song as background music, I got goosebumps. Becoming explosively famous because of a single song is something almost no one in the entertainment industry can achieve these days. Qin Si's buff was stacking nicely. The fact that she had been selected to play the lead actress in Blossoms on the Tree showed her strong capabilities, and Bai Lian had not released any new songs for several months. This song was also their most earnest collaboration. and the two were already the brightest new stars in the music world over the past year. With all these factors combined, Jin's rise to fame was inevitable and hard for anyone to replicate. It's a bit of a pity though that Bai Jian's songs are only for female singers. The male friend patted Bai Tong on the shoulder. Otherwise, you could have become as famous as Jin even before the show aired. These drama actors struggle to break out of their circle. It's too difficult. Bai Tong heard the boy's words. His lips twitched slightly, but he did not laugh. Netizens and most people in the troupe thought the song only suited a female voice, so he wasn't included this time. However, he knew that wasn't the case, as on that day Secretary Shui came personally to call him and Qin Si. He weighed the pros and cons and chose to dine with Ji Yinghui, so Gao Shu cut him off from the opportunity. If that evening he had gone to Gao Shu's office with Qin Si, the lead singers would definitely have been him and Qin Si, right? With arrangements by Head Ji and Yen Lu's favorite composer. No one could have imagined, with Shua Qingyu in the picture, that Gao Shu would still be able to pull out such an ace in the end, even making Shua Qingyu himself believe it could connect him with the old institute head and the next Spoken Drama Institute director. Under the promotional image of the Drama Institute, Shua Qingyu looked at the several names under the theme song. The students behind him didn't dare make a sound at this moment. They all knew that Ji Yinghui had promised Shua Qingyu a pie in the sky, saying he could get Head Ji to arrange music for Shua Qingyu. In the end, Ji Yinghui promised a grandiose pie, but it was Gao Shu who effortlessly managed to invite Head Ji. Who could have known that Gao Shu had this trick up her sleeve? Bai Lian brought Ning Xiao to Ma Institute's lab early on Saturday morning. As for Plasma, she had taken leave. And in the evening, Yinshao Hospital's orthopedics department received a special visitor. The Dong family's expressions were not good as the elder Dong stepped out of the elevator. Usually a scholarly figure, he immediately began to furiously rebuke his grandson Dong Chuan, whom he had always been proud of. Dong Chuan, oh Dong Chuan, where did all your daily learning go? Ha! Taking Wanxian to a bar, is that something you can do? How can our Dong family explain this to our superiors? Dong Chuan bowed his head and admitted his fault and didn't say it was Ren Wengshuan's own wish to go to Qinglong Bar. Moreover, the person involved has a somewhat special identity. He is someone Wengshuan's uncle knows. Orthopedics Director's Office. Xiaoqi stood with his hands behind his back, still exuding a gentle and refined demeanor. Mao Kuan, wearing a skull-print jacket, didn't wear a cotton coat despite the cold weather, his hands in his pockets and a cigarette hanging from his mouth. Ren Wanxian sat across from the orthopedic director, her right wrist in a plaster cast, her face cold and stern. As soon as Elder Dong appeared, Xiaoqi apologized to him. "I'm sorry, our person was a little reckless and hurt Miss Ren." The director said a month of rest won't affect the dexterity of her hand. Mao Kuan still had his hands in his pockets, a cigarette dangling from his mouth, ignoring the Dong family members. Seeing his attitude, old Dong's anger couldn't be contained. "Injured Miss Ren? You think it's over with just saying you injured Miss Ren? Do you know how important she is right now?" Xiaoqi's face was youthful, around the same age as Wanxian, and not of an age to take charge. He was a person known to Ji Xiaojun. "It's fine. Where are your parents? Have them come and speak to me." "Parents?" Mao Kuan bit his cigarette and gave Elder Dong a smirk. "My godfather, I dare not call him. Give your phone to you. Will you invite him?" Xiaoqi gave him a look and Mao Kuan stopped provoking. Only then did Xiaoqi withdraw his gaze, pondered for a moment. He was an orphan with no parents, but he touched his phone and called Bai Lian. On the other end of the phone, Jiang Fulai arrived early at Ma Institute, viewing papers in the lounge. The lab was a sensitive area and required protective suits, so Ning Xiao and Bai Lian didn't bring their phones and had left them in the lounge. Seeing Xiaoqi's call, Jiang Fulai's eyes fell slightly. He adjusted his glasses, answered the call, and the cold light from the window outside made his side profile seem even colder. "Yes? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 713, 283. This is their era. Second update. _1 Ning Xiao was still inside the laboratory and hadn't come out yet. Bai Lian came out first with the experimental data. She had been reading a lot of papers on plasma-based new material preparation recently, and shared several translated papers with Ning Xiao and Ding Wenyang's team. In the break room, Jiang Fulai saw her come in, looked up, the light reflecting off his glasses. Finished? Ning Xiao is capturing the next set of data. Bai Lian entered the break room and closed the door. I heard that starting up the machine is very expensive. Academician Ma is the person with the most research funding in the circle, only second to Jiang Fulai. The equipment that Bai Lian and Ning Xiao needed to start up had a 5-figure startup cost, but Academician Ma didn't even blink, and the bill was sent directly to the Jiang family. Jiang Fulai leaned back, playing with her phone in his fingertips, and said nonchalantly, "It's not expensive." Whenever he said it wasn't expensive, Bai Lian always had her doubts. That's why Ning Xiao was planning to stay in the lab all weekend, working overnight to produce their data, hoping to get their experimental results in one machine startup. Bai Lian was going to return to organize the afternoon's data, along with addressing the issues raised by Ding Wenyang's team. Jiang Fulai packed up his computer and handed her back her phone, mentioning Xiaoqi. He just called. Should I have Ming Dongheng take care of it? For such a minor matter, Jiang Fulai was too lazy to bother. Xiaoqi usually had his own ideas and wouldn't call Jiang Fulai unless it was out of the ordinary. Was Ren Wanxian injured? Bai Lian was surprised as she packed up the data. Let's go have a look. Jiang Fulai gave her a glance. A wrist injury, what's there worth seeing? He had a dinner reservation with Bai Lian tonight, and after eating, they planned to attend the premiere of Blossoms on the Tree. He indifferently grabbed his coat and scarf. Ming Dongheng was waiting outside, took the computer from Jiang Fulai, whose mood seemed quite good before coming here, but in just 15 minutes, he was exuding a chill. Ming Dongheng didn't dare look at Jiang Fulai and just followed the two men with his head down. The snow outside had already melted, but it was still very cold. The car took to the main road, heading straight for Jiangjing Avenue, passing through Xinjiang District on the way to Yinqiao District. Along the road, the red banners for the Incan Ocean Quadrilateral Exchange were occasionally visible, and when passing through the commercial district, the electronic screens on the mall buildings also displayed the Quadrilateral Exchange. Today Ming Dongheng was driving a business car, with Bai Lian sitting in the back with Jiang Fulai. She placed her computer on the table at the back of the car, and opened the software to draw curve graphs. Jiang Fulai sat next to her, his hand casually resting on the table, leaning slightly to watch her create the images. Yinqiao District Hospital. Ren Wanxian was under observation in the hospital. The Dong family's old master had been in the office talking to the chief physician the whole time, and hadn't said much to Xiaoqi or Mao Kuan, the younger kids. After conversing with the chief physician, he stayed at the end of the corridor on the phone. When the phone call ended, his expression was far from good. Dong Chuan stood by his side and upon seeing him hang up, quickly asked, "How did it go?" "I've reported to the chairman." The old master Dong's expression was poor. "The exchange is next week. It's not easy to find someone of the appropriate age in such a short time who can also stand the official scrutiny. Are you sure it was just an accident?" Old Master Dong narrowed his eyes, looking towards the two in the corridor. Mao Kuan was squatting in the corridor, engrossed in playing Popstar, while Xiaoqi stood next to him holding his coat, responding to messages. Xiaoqi appeared rather refined, while Mao Kuan simply looked like an unreliable youthful fellow. This exchange was important as Ren Wanxian represented the entire image of their region. It was hard for people not to suspect that someone deliberately caused trouble to disrupt the exchange. "It's not entirely their fault," Dong Chuan spoke up. "A few people were drunk outside the bar. They were handling the situation when Wanxian had an argument with Mr. Xiaoqi over a piece of paper, and then someone else injured her wrist in the scuffle." "What paper?" Old Master Dong narrowed his eyes. "It seemed to be a drawing. She wanted to take it, and that's when her wrist was injured by a countermove." Dong Chuan also found it strange. "I didn't get a clear look at it. Mr. Xiaoqi put it away." Old Master Dong didn't ask further. It was Ren Wanxian who had instigated the trouble first. The two returned to Ren Wangshuan's private hospital room, where the doctor was holding up an X-ray against the light. In the hospital room, Ji Xiaojun, Shen Qing, and the floor butler were present. With Ren Wanxian being injured, naturally, the Ji family had to be notified. With Ren Qian and Ji Xiaorong not around, Ji Xiaojun and Shenqing had made their way here. With such seriousness from the Dong family, the two hurried over, only to find it was just a swollen, sprained wrist. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 714. 283. This is their era. Second update. _2 Ren Wanxian was in a bad mood and didn't speak to Shenqing and the others. When Shenqing saw Dong Chuan, she said, "It's just a sprained wrist. The doctor said the bones aren't injured, and it should fully recover in about 2 weeks. Why don't we let those two kids outside off the hook? It wasn't intentional on their part." Her words naturally showed bias, as Xiaoqi and Mao Kuan were friends of Bai Lian, and they even called her aunt. Compared to Ren Wangshuan's indifferent attitude, Xiaoqi and the other looked much more pleasant, especially Xiaoqi. "It's just a sprained wrist?" After hearing Shenqing's words, Ren Wanxian glanced at her with a remark that seemed both mocking and teasing. She wanted to say something else but ended up turning her head away, no longer looking at Shenqing, as if there was nothing left to say between them. As soon as Ren Wanxian said this, Shenqing knew there was more to the story, and she immediately tugged at Ji Xian's clothing, not daring to speak further. Ji Xiaojun interacted with Elder Dong quite gracefully. The Dong family was indifferent to Mao Kuan and the others, but they were somewhat polite to Ji Xiaojun. "It's not that I want to make a big deal out of it, but this issue is more than anyone can handle." The butler, standing by, was taken aback and wondered to himself what matter could be so significant. Speaking of which, Elder Dong glanced at Xiaoqi and Mao Kuan with a cold voice. "Haven't your parents arrived yet?" Xiaoqi looked at his phone leisurely. "They're here." Elder Dong's gaze grew heavy, and he sat back down in the chair beside the sickbed, while Dong Chuan handed him a cup of water. It was at this moment that the half-closed door of the ward was pushed open, and the sound was particularly noticeable in the quiet room. The one who pushed the door was Ming Dongheng, with his sharp brows and starry eyes, an imposing aura about him. Ming Dongheng surveyed the room's occupants but did not enter, standing respectfully to the left of the door. The room seemed to quiet down in a second, so silent you could hear a pin drop. Elder Dong was looking down at his tea, with no intention of looking up at Xiaoqi's so-called parents. But the next second, he seemed to sense the shift in the atmosphere and raised his head. He saw a man and a woman entering. The girl wore a simple white sweater, her features bright and beautiful, and the man beside her was straight as a rod, holding a black long cotton jacket, his eyebrows and eyes cold like jade. Upon their entrance, the temperature in the ward seemed to drop several degrees. Elder Dong's hand trembled, and hot water spilled onto his hand, but he appeared not to feel it and quickly stood up from the chair. "Mr. Jiang, what brings you here?" He didn't recognize Bai Lian, but he did recognize Jiang Fulai. Jiang Fulai stood by Bai Lian's side, gave Elder Dong a fleeting glance, and remained silent. The butler was also surprised by the sudden appearance of Bai Lian and Jiang Fulai, quickly bowing respectfully and standing aside. Next to them, Mao Kuan removed the cigarette he had been chewing on from his mouth and touched the back of his head. "Sister Lian, brother Jiang." Xiaoqi's voice was slightly softer. "Sis." With their words, the Dong family realized that the relatives Xiaoqi and Mao Kuan had been waiting for word by Lian and Jiang Fulai, and both Elder Dong and Dong Chuan were extremely surprised. How could they possibly imagine that Ren Wangshuan's little thugs were so familiar with Jiang Fulai? Bai Lian held her phone, greeted Ji Xiaojun and Shenqing, then turned to Elder Dong. "We'll take care of all the medical expenses. Don't worry, we assure you that her hand won't have any issues afterward." Elder Dong finally lost his previous arrogance, smiling wryly. He then explained the issue with the upcoming international event. Actually, any injury would not be a big deal, but the international exchange will start next week. Wanxian is representing the National Calligraphy Association as a youth in official public appearances. This is a very important and confidential matter, and we can't find a replacement on short notice. We're not trying to make a fuss, but if the matter is pursued from above, neither the Dong family nor the Mu family can bear it. This was an opportunity that the Dong family had finally managed to secure. They were supportive of Ren Wangshuan's involvement with Dong Chuan, naturally wanting to promote her while also taking this opportunity to boost her fame. But before it could begin, this incident occurred. To put it lightly, they were unsuccessful in handling matters. To put it more seriously, it damaged the official image. In the room, the butler was startled by the elder Dong's words. Miss Ren is going to represent the youth? He realized the importance of the matter. At the scene, only Bai Lian, Jiang Fulai, and Xiaoqi with a few others maintained their previous expressions, their faces showing no change, as if what the members of the Dong family were discussing was just an insignificant matter. Bai Lian said politely, "Is this the only issue?" Dong Chuan and the elder Dong hesitated, but considering Jiang Fulai's presence, they did not dare to speak openly, only looking towards Jiang Fulai. "Mr. Jiang." The butler took a few steps forward and whispered to Bai Lian, "Miss Bai, this is an official exchange meeting." Bai Lian had heard about the Four Nations exchange meeting from Jianzhe and Qiushuizheng a few days earlier. In a couple of days, they were also supposed to represent the Xiangqing Calligraphy Association at this grand event. And it so happened that Jianzhe was also preparing for his postgraduate entrance exams. Bai Lian listened inattentively, her fingers tapping on the phone screen sporadically, thoughtfully looking at Xiaoqi, ready to ask him later exactly what kind of paper it was. "I know," she grasped her phone after the butler finished speaking, and very politely asked, "I'll take care of things with the Calligraphy Association. Is there anything else?" Polite, restrained, yet assertive. The elder Dong had not yet reacted, only shaking his head in confusion. Bai Lian nodded her head, bid farewell to Ji Xiaojun and Xin Qing, and then looked at Xiaoqi and Mao Corin. "Come out with me." Jiang Fulai had not said a word from beginning to end, just standing to one side. When Bai Lian walked out, he leisurely followed behind her. Outside, Bai Lian took out her phone and sent a message to Qiushuizheng. On the other end of the phone, Qiushuizheng in Xiangqing was eating watermelon when he saw the message and paused for a moment. Next to him, Jianzhe put down his heavy book and looked up. "Mr. Qiu, what's wrong?" "Miss Bai," Qiushuizheng said with a strange expression. "She's going to represent the youth at the Four Nations exchange meeting. I need to prepare in advance." "Jianzhe, what's the issue with Miss Bai attending the exchange meeting?" asked a student from Xiangqing No. 1 Middle School after Qiushuizheng left. "I remember Mr. Qiu always saying, if your writing had 1/10 of Miss Bai's strength, it would be good. Miss Bai's writing is very beautiful. It's not really a problem, it's just, last year she won first place at the Orchid Pavilion Award by a wide margin, and because of her, the 3 first prize awards were exceptionally reduced to only 1. Mr. Qiu said her brushwork wasn't even as steady back then as it is now." Jianzhe picked up his book again and shrugged. Her writing alongside a group of her peers would be like, Miss Bai, at her current level, joining a group of elementary students. The Liang style, the era of the Xiangqing Calligraphy Association was now upon them. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 715. 284 The Newly Emerged Outlaw, Bai Lian's Confidence. _1 Xiaoqi was busy. When Bai Lian got into the car with him, he had just finished a call with Zhang Xiais. Zhang Xiais had gone to the University of Political Science and Law that afternoon, and had just come out, planning to have dinner with Qi Yundai. Bai Lian, with her keen senses, overheard Zhang Shi's voice. "Brother Xiaoqi, you do what you think is best, no problem. What's this? You call this a preemptive defense mechanism? If the Luo family dares to sue you, that's just perfect. You can then get several media outlets to say that the Luo family is afraid of your Xiankang's influence, and expand your influence, hee. As a leading domestic pharmaceutical group, the Luo family had entered into a joint venture with an island nation last year, deliberately driving down the price of Chinese herbs by hoarding them, and also had hired a number of veteran traditional Chinese doctors. Many small Chinese medicine companies domestically could not continue with their business because of this. However, Xiaoqi had traveled to the 4 major cities last year, and started with third-tier small towns, acquiring many endangered pharmaceutical companies that were on the brink of closure and had excess stock. His recent moves had been bold, bringing Lance to the fore, and even releasing a series of shameless soft-sell articles. The Luo family was beginning to feel unsettled. Listening to Zhang Shi's words, Xiaoqi seemed contemplative, and then started talking about the evening's events. But I wasn't really hurt. Xiao even injured their people. Wouldn't demanding a shop be going too far? How much is an hour of your time worth, brother? On the other end of the phone, Zhang Xiai saw Qi Yundai up ahead and raised his eyebrows. Do you know how much of your time they've wasted? Not to mention compensation for emotional distress. One shop is nothing. You should just sue them for 3 shops worth of damages. Alright, my teacher is here, brother Xiaoqi, let's talk next time, gotta hang up now. To not be injured yet demand the other party compensate with a shop? When he heard such dangerous rhetoric, Bai Lian's brows twitched momentarily. She couldn't help but turn to look at Xiaoqi, beginning to wonder if he hadn't called her today. Would Ren Wanxian and the Dong family people still have had to compensate Xiaoqi with 1,000,000 yuan? Qi Yundai was clearly a law-abiding good lawyer, so why was Zhang Xiai's who followed in his wake such a scoundrel? She stopped in front of the commercial vehicle, wanting to say a few words to Xiaoqi. Jiang Fulai took a cloak from the back seat and handed it to her before getting into the car, not interrupting their conversation. Sister, Xiaoqi put his phone back in his pocket and showed her a piece of paper from his pocket. This is it. Bai Lian reached out and took a slightly yellowed piece of paper. It was an order form in English. Bai Lian looked at it carefully from top to bottom. A transaction for some kind of nerve toxin, though the type of toxin was not specified. What is this? Bai Lian handed the order back to Xiaoqi. I don't know. The dean gave it to me right before she died, saying when she found me, the only thing with me was this crumpled piece of paper. She didn't understand English, so she kept it for me, Xiaoqi explained to Bai Lian. But I think it's probably garbage. But it was one of the few things the dean had left for him, and he had kept it until now. Bai Lian and Jiang Fulai went straight to the theater because they had dealt with Xiaoqi's matter and hadn't had lunch together. So Ming Dongheng picked up a box of pastries as they passed Qingxin building. When they arrived at the theater, there were still many fans outside holding banners. Ming Dongheng drove to the back entrance. Secretary Xue was already backstage to receive the two of them. There was some distance from the entrance to the main theater. Bai Lian put on a white cape, pure white, with only 2 cross-green grapevines embroidered on the front, simple and elegant. Jiang Fulai wore a black minimalist down jacket that reached his knees. The coat didn't look bulky on his tall and straight figure, but his expression was too stern. Secretary Xue didn't dare to guess his mood, and subconsciously felt that young Master Jiang was not in a good mood at the moment. In black and white, snapping back to reality, Secretary Xue then led the two through the back entrance to their seats. Madame Su and Dean Jian have already arrived early. Considering herself a cautious person, her gaze couldn't help but sneak a peek at Bai Lian along the way. It was hard to imagine that such an elegant and modest person with excellent academic achievements was the same mysterious composer who had revitalized the Chinese music scene online this year. Qin Si had even gained a bit of fame because of this. As the person in charge, Secretary Xue was very aware of Qin Si's current commercial value. The theater had arranged for Qin Si to star as the female lead in a national tour. The male lead, Bai Tong, was yet to be confirmed. The circular seating on both the first and second floors was fully occupied. Bai Lian and Jiang Fulai's seats were in the front row, where Dean Jian and Gao Yin had already arrived and were chatting quietly in their seats. At 7 o'clock, Blossoms on the Tree opened. Some in the audience had come specifically for Qin Si and the song Blossoms on the Tree, unfamiliar with the play format. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 716. 284 The Newly Emerged Outlaw, by Lian's Confidence. _2 But as the curtain rose, everyone was infected by the humor intertwined with tense atmosphere. Qin Si and the other actors had much better acting skills and lines than the everyday actors one sees, possessing a strong emotional contagion. The first climax began, accompanied by the prelude to Blossoms on the Tree, which gradually built up to the most moving moment. As the sound of the guzheng played, not a single person in the large theater made a sound, all watching the stage with rapt attention. The exhilarating play concluded, and in the final tailpiece, it was Qin Si's solo, singing the theme song. This was the highlight. Blossoms on the Tree, was so popular mainly because of the theme song, which is why the theater specifically arranged this segment. After the premiere, they immediately released Chinsis version for free on the internet. During the 2-hour performance, including Chinsis solo, not a single person left early. After Chinsi finished singing the theme song, she stood in the middle of the stage to take a bow. Dressed in a bright red outfit, her hair tied back at the nape, she stood radiantly in the center of the stage. Everyone was still immersed in the plot and the theme song, with applause that was like a tide and lasted a long while. Backstage, the old dean's assistant excitedly said, "Dean, our play is a success. It's really going to be a hit." Gao Shu, holding flowers, embraced Qin Si. "Congratulations, Qin Si." Next to them, the old dean looked at Gao Shu and nodded slightly, already making a decision in his mind. Bai Lian had been quite busy lately. After watching the play, Gao Shu wanted to take both of them out for a meal, but she declined. Gao Shu had no choice but to send the two of them out. After the black business car drove off, Gao Yan finally snapped back to her senses, beginning to digest the plot she had just seen. "So, you're saying that the theme song was composed by Lian Lian, and Dean Jian arranged it? She's that composer who's been incredibly popular online recently?" When you think about it carefully, it's not surprising. The first time I saw Bai Lian with Dean Jian, they didn't interact like elder and junior, but more like musical soulmates when they talked about music. Now that I think about it, Bai Lian being that composer, and Dean Jian being the arranger, everything makes sense. Earlier when Secretary Shui was trying to dig up information on Bai Jian, she couldn't find anything. Gao Shu walked back with her. "With my nephew involved, who could possibly uncover her information? A successful play hinges on the actors, music, atmosphere, and set design. None can be missing." Blossoms on the Tree had the best of everything, along with added halo effect. The viral Yin Lu by Jian craze from a few days ago hadn't even subsided yet, and tonight's plot and theme song exceeded everyone's expectations. After this evening, Blossoms on the Tree had just ended and the theme song had soared up the hot search list again. The popularity of the song Blossoms on the Tree was unprecedented and more fiery than the initial drinking wager. Suggest everyone to experience it live for the true feel of the plot, actors, sound system, and atmosphere. It's genuinely different listening to this song live. The plot is truly amazing. Yin Lu might still have a little hope of holding a concert. Qin Si really has no hope for that. The only chance to hear her live is in the theater. I've got to get ready. See you in Jiangjing for New Year's. Sunday, another piece of news shocked the netizens everywhere. Two major corporations come to blows. Xiankong serves Luo family with a court summon demanding compensation for 3 stores. The news spread across various video platforms simultaneously, humorous and witty, and the comments below. "I'm dying of laughter. I heard the agent from Xiankong didn't get a scratch. Shouldn't Luo family sue them for extortion?" The boss of Xiankong said he counts his time by the second, and wasting even 1 second is worth tens of thousands. Forget 3 stores, even if they asked for 10 it would be standard negotiating. Sneaky, sneaky, sneaky. Guys, what's key is that the court actually issued the summons. Damn, who's the king yin backing Xiankong? Horrified. Xiankang's move caught Luo Pharmaceutical utterly off guard. The acupuncture craze hadn't yet faded and the 3 stores meme caught fire again. Do you have 3 stores? If not, better not mess with me. While the netizens were playing with the meme, they were curious about who was the renegade legal advisor behind Xiankong. It had been really bustling in Jiangjing recently, not only because of Xiankong, but also because the theater was on fire. It's not the new year, but it feels just like it. The upcoming Hanhai Inc. C4 Nations Cultural Exchange event, squeezed in the middle, received a lukewarm response. The folks from the Culture Bureau were also anxious. Tuesday morning. This is the evaluation material the Calligraphy Association just brought over. Vice Director Liang presented a new list to Dean Jian in his office, suggesting, "We should increase promotional efforts. The interest in this year's exchange is low. Everyone's attention is on the theater and Xiankong. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 717. 284 The Newly Emerged Outlaw, by Lian's Confidence. _3, As for public relations, the two of you handle the negotiations. Dean Jian lowered his head, stretched out his hand to flip through the Calligraphy Association's quota, and was surprised. The representative changed? Vice Director Liang was contemplating the publicity matter. I heard there was a problem with the candidate selection. Dean Jian never involved himself too much in the affairs of the Calligraphy Association. He hadn't really remembered the few young people featured by the Calligraphy Association in their last report. He just had someone investigate their backgrounds, and as long as those were clean and simple, it was sufficient. This time was no different. He held a pen and briefly flipped through each page, encountering names unfamiliar to him. On the last page, he pressed down on the list, about to sign as he looked down, but sensed something was off. The next second he released his hold and flipped back to the previous page. Young representative female. Name, by Lian by Jian age. 20. If it were just the name, Dean Jian might think it was a coincidence, but the other name was the same, and so was the age. All these coincidences together. Could they still be coincidences? Dean Jian. Dean Jian. Vice Director Liang saw Dean Jian pausing on that page, delayed in signing his name. Is there a problem with the list? Not necessarily. Having spent time in Xiangqing, Dean Jian knew about the unclear connections between the Calligraphy Association, Shenkong, and the neighboring martial arts school. The recent events in Jiangjing were all related to Bai Lian. I was just thinking. There's a possibility that we won't need to do any publicity. What is she up to now? Dean Jian was puzzled. He remembered Bai Lian's Guanga-style calligraphy. It wasn't part of the grass script and Liang-style calligraphy this time. Tuesday afternoon. In the cafeteria of Jiangjing University, Hen Shuyan, holding a cup of milk tea, bid farewell to Song Min and Bai Shaoqi. Junior brother, junior sister, goodbye. Senior Hen, take care. See you tonight. Song Min bid him farewell. Hen Shuyan had secured experimental funds through Song Min, and after back-and-forth interactions, the three had become quite familiar with each other. Bai Lian spent 2 hours in the ion laboratory that afternoon. After sending the data and summary to Ding Wenyang, she took off her lab coat, ready to leave early. Qiu Xuezhing and Jianzhe were soon to arrive in Jiangjing, and Bai Lian was going to have dinner with them and discuss the four-nation exchange event. Ning Xiao was still analyzing the weekend's data. Seeing Bai Lian leaving, Hen Shuyan entered the laboratory with his milk tea and looked at her, pausing. Bai Lian, are you going out again? Hen Shuyan was a doctoral student mentored by Sun Fu, the youngest among the doctoral students he supervised. He usually didn't manage others, but now that he was supervising several new students, he couldn't stand seeing them idle on regular days. No matter who it was, anyone with free time would be assigned a task. Senior Hen. Bai Lian picked up her cloak. At this moment, she was still courteous. She always completed the tasks in the research center quickly. I've finished the group data for today. After finishing, you should double-check it twice. Scientific research requires rigor. Hen Shuyan handed her another set of data from the side. And by the way, calculate this too. Bai Lian looked down briefly. It wasn't a group assignment. She held her cloak, calmly and coolly said, I don't have time next. As the lab's doctoral students, Ding Wenyang and the others always treated Hen Shuyan politely. Bai Lian wasn't warm to them on a daily basis, but was always courteous. This was the first time she was so outspoken. Hen Shuyan hadn't expected Bai Lian, who usually spoke the least and seemed the most honest, to be so sharp-tongued. Beside him, Tang Ming had long found these senior and junior students displeasing and gave a very quiet laugh. Hen Shuyan's expression stiffened a bit. What happened? Outside, Su Yuanjin, dressed in a white lab coat, came in and swept her gaze across the lab. Bai Lian looked down at her phone, sending messages in a steady and unhurried manner, without joining the conversation. Hen Shuyan relayed the entire matter to Su Yuanjin. Senior sister, it's like this. The research distributed by the teacher, I'm doing it for their own good, giving them these training opportunities. We need to report by Friday. Bai Lian almost laughed. She slightly lifted her hand, without humility or arrogance, and interrupted Hen Shuyan, her long black hair sweeping across her brows. Hen Shuyan, this training opportunity, do you want it? Her tone was very casual. Beside her, Tang Ming didn't dare to make any move. Having been around Bai Lian for so long, even when she was angry, she never interrupted someone else. She didn't even call him Senior Hen anymore. For a freshman, Bai Lian's attitude was a bit arrogantly out of nowhere. Of course, Su Yuanjin sided with her own junior brother. She gestured dismissively. Classmate, you have to be steadfast. The chance to experience the academic atmosphere in the laboratory isn't available to every new student. Your senior hen is also considering your welfare. Apologize to your senior brother. I don't want to report everything to the teacher. It wouldn't be good to send you home for self-reflection. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 718. 284 The newly emerged outlaw, Bai Lian's confidence. For the implication was clear, if she didn't apologize, she would report to Sun Fu. She held quite a bit of prestige in the lab, and with one word from her, the entire external laboratory fell silent. Su Jiyue even set aside her work and didn't dare to breathe too heavily, while Ding Wenyang anxiously looked at Bai Lian. The opportunity for newcomers to come to the lab was rare. Fine, I won't come at all this week. Bai Lian was not affected. She slowly draped her cape over herself, her slender fingers tying the drawstrings, and she waved her cell phone towards Hen Shuyan and Su Yuanjin. Professor Zhou just approved my leave for a week. The International Exchange Conference was a big national event, and Professor Zhou even asked her if 1 week would be enough. Having said that, she picked up her computer and turned to leave. Her snow-white cape traced an arc in the air. Behind her, Hen Shuyan narrowed his eyes. He had heard from Song Min and Bai Xiaoqi that Bai Lian came from Beicheng, with no major scholarly factions backing her. In the lab, such people were actually quite easy to manipulate. He had prepared for Bai Lian to apologize, but didn't expect her to be so straightforward, leaving as soon as she said she would. Where did she get this confidence? Hen Shuyan and Su Yuanjin didn't pay much attention to Bai Lian's departure, and no one wanted to inquire further. She was just a freshman, one more or less didn't matter to them. That evening, Song Min invited Hen Shuyan for dinner, and Hen Shuyan brought Su Yuanjin along. Song Min was now into student entrepreneurship and was doing quite well, and both Su Yuanjin and Hen Shuyan were eager to make connections with him. At the dinner table, Hen Shuyan brought up Bai Lian again. She took a leave for such a great opportunity. Bai Xiaoqi heard this and looked up with her drink in hand. How long had Bai Xiaoqi waited for such an opportunity? Too young. I heard she's this year's top scholar from the National College entrance exam, and quite popular at school. She's inevitably a bit arrogant, Su Yuanjin, having heard a few things about Bai Lian from Bai Xiaoqi, commented. I will report to the teacher tomorrow. With a student like her, the teacher might not want to keep her around. How popular Bai Lian was, Su Yuanjin and Hen Shuyan, who spent their days in the lab, had both heard about her. Sitting to the left of Bai Xiaoqi, Song Min slightly lifted his gaze upon hearing this. Bai Xiaoqi smiled lightly and said no more. Just then, Su Yuanjin received a message from Sun Fu. After reading the message, Su Yuanjin put down her chopsticks. Is the group assignment done? The teacher just said he's coming in person on Friday to listen, so check on the progress. The teacher is taking it this seriously this time? Hen Shuyan was somewhat surprised. The two hadn't finished dining when Song Min drove them back to the research center. I can't believe she just took a leave like that. Under the research center's tall building, after the two entered, Bai Xiaoqi got into the car. Are you really going to invest in this project? If it really can be developed, Song Min slowly drove off. Its market value will multiply many times over. In the upstairs laboratory. This time, Hen Shuyan and Su Yuanjin had delegated the group assignment entirely to the newcomers, and the quality of this year's freshmen was truly notable. They had both taken on the role of hands-off supervisors. Because they were both busy with their own matters, neither Hen Shuyan nor Su Yuanjin were aware of the progress of the group assignment. They called in Liang Wuyu. Upon being questioned, Liang Wuyu pushed his glasses up and his hair partially obscured his eyes. We're missing a comprehensive data model. Then you all need to hurry up and work on it, Hen Shuyan frowned. We can't, Liang Wuyu replied unhurriedly. Xiyue and Tang Ming need to familiarize themselves with the equipment. All their data was checked and calculated by Bai Lian, She's faster than a computer. Only she is fully aware of this part of the data and the verification models. But now she has taken leave. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 719. 285 Converge in Jiangjing. President Huang takes action against fraud. _1 Sun Fuss. Regularly scheduled group assignment wasn't too difficult. It just required spending time to crunch the data. It was laborious and tested one's patience. Hen Shuyan and Su Yuanjin had delegated this task to a few newcomers. Hen Shuyan monitored the progress, and for this kind of group assignment, it would suffice to simply add his and Su Yuanzhen's names at the end. But he had never expected that the most core, cumbersome data in the group assignment was all organized by Bai Lian? You're joking. Hen Shuyan's expression darkened. Senior brother Hen, do you think I would joke about such a matter with you? Liang Wuyu shook her head. Hen Shuyan stopped talking. He truly couldn't understand how Bai Lian, who spent every day in the lab doing everything but her actual work, and who was always reading some papers, had found the time to handle such an immense volume of calculations. Bai Lian and Ning Xiao, each of them took at least 2 days of leave every week. Under such circumstances, not only did she handle her own data, but she also helped Tang Ming and Su Jiyue. Hen Shuyan didn't believe it, but he also knew that most of what Liang Wuyu said was probably true. From the beginning he knew that the crowd including Tang Ming and Ding Wenyang was led by Bai Lian, who held absolute leadership among the newcomers. Today, both Hen Shuyan and Su Yuanjin meant to give Bai Lian a warning. But who knew that Bai Lian didn't care about the usual marks, and would leave whenever she said she would? Now that she had asked for leave, who would take over this most voluminous set of experimental data? Friday was the day of the regular meeting. Su Yuanzhen's face didn't look great either. After Liang Wuyu went out, she gave Hen Shuyan a glance. Junior brother Hen, it's normal to have some friction in the lab. Go and have a good talk with Bai Lian. Hen Shuyan, of course, wanted to get in touch. He was more anxious than anyone. He was graduating in the first half of next year, and he needed to obtain excellent evaluations. Otherwise he would have to delay his graduation. He hadn't previously added Bai Lian's contact information, so he could only ask the other team members for her number and WeChat. He managed to get the number, but the call didn't go through, and there was no response on WeChat. In any case, with Bai Lian's departure, she was utterly unfindable in the lab. Hen Shuyan, who hadn't dealt with this group assignment for weeks, had no choice but to grit his teeth and burn the midnight oil to crunch the data. Sherman District. Bai Lian had already arrived at the hotel where Qiu Xuezhing and the others were staying. Sherman District is a tourist area, situated to the right of Xinjiang District. Qiu Xuezhing was communicating with the person in charge of this event. Having not seen each other for half a year, Jianzhe was more composed than before, not as impetuous, gentle yet reserved. Just past this street is Cultural Square, where we were originally slated to rehearse every day. Under the gaze of cameras from 4 nations, the slightest stage fright could affect performance. As for ability, no one was worried. After all, he was the top scholar of the last year's cohort. And when it came to stage fright, the Calligraphy Association, along with Qiu Zizheng's side, was even less concerned about that. The hotel beside Cultural Square had been expropriated by the officials to accommodate all the friends who had arrived for this event. Jianzhe took Bai Lian to a lounge in Xiangqing, pulled open a drawer, and handed over a document to Bai Lian. There's also this, from Brother Mao's friend who asked me to give it to you. Bai Lian reached out to take it. This was the order she had asked someone to investigate last time. Held by Xiaoqi. Neurotoxins weren't common in the country, and Zhou Jian shouldered all responsibility for Su En's incident. Mao Kuan had also checked the source, and the Run family was indeed uninvolved. But Run Wangshuan's reaction to the order in Zioki's hands was significant. Bai Lian still had someone look into it. 20 years ago, when the internet wasn't widespread, all transactions happened offline. Bacter Street was intricate and complex, making the investigation of relationships troublesome. Bai Lian skimmed the paper and found some good news. They had found the supplier. She lowered her gaze and slowly folded the paper, then slouched lazily in the chair beside her. You came this time. You should be planning to stay for the exams before you leave, right? The examination locations for Jiang University were fixed. Every year, very few students from other institutions dared to apply to Jiang University. After the symposium, Jianzhe would also be nearly ready for his postgraduate exams. Speaking of which, Su Wenyao was also taking the exams this year. Yes, Teacher Chiu asked me to prepare for the interviews in Jiangjing. Jianzhe sat opposite her, picked up the Yixing teapot with practiced hands, brewed a cup of tea, and then poured one for Bai Lian as well. Bai Lian reached out to take the teacup and tasted it with a relaxed and leisurely air. To convey culture to foreign guests, each room in the hotel had been equipped with unique Chinese teaware. Jianzhe, under Qiu Zizhang's influence in Xiangqing, had learned to do it properly and said after drinking a sip, "This tea isn't as good as ours." As soon as Qiu Xuezheng came in, he heard Jianzhe's unabashed comments. He hung his overcoat on the left side, took a seat in the empty spot, and began detailing the developments of Xiangqing Calligraphy Association over the past 6 months to Bai Lian. Chapter 720. 285 Converge in Jiangjing. President Huang takes action against fraud_2 over the past 6 months. As people clocked in and word of mouth accumulated, the flow of visitors steadily increased, and the scale of the street expanded several times over, sparking various industries' bloom. Jianzhe became a representative figure for the Xiangqing Calligraphy Association. Because the college students who came to clock in all liked him. He was cultured and quite handsome. Many people came to Xiangqing just for him. How many members does the Calligraphy Association have now? Bai Lian asked. Qiu Xuezheng laughed. Over 100 members now, not including the children who come to learn. There are a lot of people, so I discussed with a few teachers and we increased the thresholds. Bai Lian tapped her fingertips on the lid of her cup, her eyes lowered in thought, and she didn't ask further. Oh, Qiu Xuezheng saw she was deep in thought and didn't disturb her, but suddenly remembered something and he looked towards Jianzhe. I just saw Jianrong's name on the list. The members of your family should be there too. This kind of official exchange would be a gathering of masters. The Beiqing Writers Association and the Jian family would definitely attend. Other than returning to Beiqing once in June, Jianzhe spent the past 6 months in Xiangqing, focusing on learning and practicing calligraphy, without returning to Beiqing. Qiu Xuezheng suggested he take the time to go back and visit his family. I'll go visit in a couple of days. Jianzhe topped up Qiu Zizhang's tea. Find some time, after the exchange meeting, ocean of ink and brush in a couple of days. We at the Xiangqing Calligraphy Association will start to get busy. Qiu Xuezheng said leisurely as he drank his tea. Watching the neighboring martial arts gym and clinic flourish, Qiu Xuezheng had been worried. Now he could finally relax. After eating, they returned to Shanghai apartment. Bai Lian sat on the carpet in piano room 302. She didn't have group homework due for the plasma laboratory today, and she had taken the time to try out the composition from Director Jian that was blooming on the trees. Director Jian's composition was too stunning. Her fingers glided across the strings, and she played it 2 or 3 times before stopping. It was no wonder this song was a hit. Both she and Director Jian were serious about it. At the weighty door of the piano room, Jiang Fulai held the door with one hand, papers from his group in his other, listening attentively. Bai Lian knew someone was behind her. After playing for the 3rd time, she slowly reached out to take off her prosthetic nails, turning to look at him with her usual laid-back expression. I took the day off today. She told Jiang Fulai about the laboratory. Chapter 721. 285 Converge in Jiangjing. President Huang takes action against fraud_3. Liang Wuyu whispered to Tang Ming, who after looking at him, thought for a moment, and then switched places with Liang Wuyu. After they switched, Liang Wuyu put down his utensils and spoke softly. Hen Xian only wrote his name and his senior sisters on the paper. It was a common yet unquestionably uncontestable tactic. Bai Lian picked up a thermos from the table, unscrewed the lid, took a sip, and with drooping eyes said, How did those two manipulate the data? They basically copied yours, Liang Wuyu had observed carefully. Unlike the aloof Ning Xiao or the socially anxious Su Jiyue, his tone was slightly disdainful. Without using your data, they wouldn't be able to calculate it even if given another week. I see. Bai Lian idly tapped her finger on the thermos, smiling lethargically. I'll join you for the regular meeting this evening. Not far away. The group led by Gao Yuan. The members were all connected through a network of relationships, interwoven and intricate, and there were also rumors about Bai Lian taking a month's leave due to poor relations with the lab's seniors. Bai Lian had a high reputation at Jiang University, especially after the welcome party. It wasn't just Bai Lian. Now, Tang Ming's notoriety in the school even exceeded that of Gao Yuan and his group. However, Jiangjing had recently been thrown into chaos by Xiankong, Yanlu and the Drama Academy, with most of the school forum discussing these issues. The response to Bai Lian's group in the laboratory was lukewarm, and the number of mentions they received on the forum recently had finally decreased significantly. Being smart is useless in experiments, Gao Yuan, who was recently quite buoyant, said. No one in the lab dared to exploit someone from the Gao family, and the seniors were always willing to include him in their projects. Don't worry about them, everyone just focus on their work in the lab. The research directions I posted in the group are important. Our group's performance is crucial before the end of the term. When he said the last sentence, Gao Yuan's expression was very serious. The people at the table looked at each other, and knew Gao Yuan must have some inside information. And it must be something significant. They finished dinner almost at the same time as Bai Lian's table and left. As they walked behind Bai Lian and Ning Xiao, it was clear to see that Ning Xiao, Ding Wenyang, and others were heading towards the research center, while Bai Lian was going in the direction of the west gate, planning to leave the university. Gao Yuan watched Bai Lian heading off, feeling relieved. After all, Bai Lian still hadn't experienced academia. She was used to being adored by students, unaware of how this circle operates. What use was her intelligence then? I wonder what she's going out for now, one of the boys said, patting Wang Shi on the shoulder with a laugh. Brother, you made the right choice joining our group. Gao Yuan's information is more advanced than the average professor's. This was something Wang Shi finally felt after joining the lab. From October to December, Wang Shi had felt a heavy burden on his chest, unable to breathe. The success of Bai Lian and Ding Wenyang made him anxious, but now he finally felt it dissipating. In the evening, the regular meeting of the plasma laboratory was in the amphitheater of the physics building. Bai Lian had made a special trip back from Ma Institute's laboratory. Lian's sister over here. Tang Ming saved her a spot in the last row. Sun Fu brought a few doctoral students, not many, but together with the assistants and lab heads, and the new group including Ding Wenyang, there were still over 20 people in the amphitheater. Bai Lian was most familiar with Hen Shuyan. She rarely saw the others, but they were all quite polite in greeting her. Dean Huang. In the middle of the meeting, Huang Yushua entered, and Sun Fu quickly got up. What brings you here? The second disciple of Ma Institute, a top figure in domestic quantum physics, Sun Fu was very respectful towards Dean Huang. Dean Huang, hands clasped behind his back, nodded slightly towards Sun Fu. I've come to listen in. His arrival injected enthusiasm among the present graduate students. The group led by Ding Wenyang was also curious. Only Bai Lian, seated in her place, casually flipped through a paper without looking up. Ding Wenyang was seated in front of her and turned back. The paper Bai Lian was pressing down was still the original. The arrival of Dean Huang livened up the atmosphere. The graduate student meetings were much higher in quality than the bi-weekly sessions of the Tongfeng class, and Ning Xiao and others listened attentively. Soon it was Su Yuan's Hen's group's turn. He Shuyan, holding a USB drive, went up after having stayed up for 3 consecutive days with only a few hours of sleep, dark circles under his eyes, disheveled hair, and his spirits dampened by anxiety. Still, his presentation and the data he showcased were quite polished. It seemed to pass muster. But something was lacking. The last slide of the PPT listed the primary authors of the paper, He Shuyan Su Yuanjin. Just the two of them. They've really got some nerve. Ding Wenyang couldn't help but become angry, whispering to Liang Wuyu. All the research materials were collected by us, and the data was done by Bai Lian. They just reviewed Bai Lian's data in the last 2 days, and now it's credited to them. They have no shame at all. The rest of the group was equally furious. As he spoke, Ding Wenyang sneaked a glance back. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 722, 286 Outstanding Talents Emerge, First Update. _1 Sun Fu looked at the two outstanding team members he had just praised, his face ashen. He first apologized to Dean Huang, then turned his head. The group assignment I gave you was to temper your temperaments. Go back and reflect properly for 2 weeks, and you two don't need to come during this time. Hen Shuyan and Su Yuan's hen's faces instantly turned white. Such incidents actually were not uncommon in the lab, but most people would not make it public. Unexpectedly, Dean Huang happened to visit today. Especially for Hen Shuyan, graduation was imminent, but now it wasn't just a matter of delaying graduation. It was about whether he could graduate smoothly afterwards. In the back row, Ding Wenyang was dumbstruck as he watched everything unfold. Dean Huang's office. When Bai Lian arrived, he was standing by the glass window, holding a lit cigarette in his hand. Sit. Dean Huang flicked the ash off his cigarette and sat down on the sofa beside him, his eyes somber. What are your thoughts on what happened today? Bai Lian took a seat, accepted the teacup handed over by the teaching assistant, and didn't speak. It's a normal occurrence. Where there are people, there are battles for fame and fortune. Dean Huang didn't expect her to say much. You will encounter more situations like this in the future. You had a senior who faced much tougher challenges than you. This path is not easy, especially for a woman. I hope you can stick to your original aspiration and keep moving forward. I know. Bai Lian held her teacup, her gaze looking out of the glass window. The snow had almost melted, leaving only the desolate tree leaves. Her eyes were as deep as still waters, her expression excessively indifferent. This freshly graduated junior sister from the ivory tower. The dean had initially thought she, like her teacher, was not familiar with the ways of the world. The incident today might have been too big a blow for her. But now, looking into her eyes, he suddenly felt that this junior sister was very different from what he had imagined. She seemed to have experienced much. As long as you know. Dean Huang chuckled, standing up. Let's go. As for Professor Sun, he might submit a report tomorrow requesting your temporary removal from the team. We'll check out other labs tonight. It was 9 o'clock. He left his office door open and didn't keep Bai Lian for very long. Just a few minutes, he and the teaching assistant saw Bai Lian out. At the staircase, Tang Ming and Ding Wenyang's group were all huddled together, leaning against the edge. These students were full of life, talking softly while waiting for Bai Lian to come out. Chapter 723, 286 Outstanding Talents Emerge, First Update. _2 I can't do it, but I have a student who can, Xiaozhuyu said to Huang Yushua. Although she's only a freshman, she's very diligent, exceptionally talented, and will be a rising star in the field of biology. Just wait a few more years for her. Who? Could anyone be more diligent than you? Coming from a poor family background, Huang Yushua had been in the same high school class as Xiaozhuyu and was aware of his family's situation. It was hard to get into university back then, and Xia was always studying, even when he was working part-time. He admired someone else's diligence. Yang Lin, my student, Xiaozhuyu went to boil water. With her tenacity, her name will undoubtedly be found in the future edifices of domestic biology. Huang Yushua sat on the sofa, joking aside. But Xiaozhuyu's words surprised him. Initially, he was amazed that a freshman like Bai Lian had caught the eye of her professor, and now Yang Lin had quietly gained Xiaozhuyu's favor? Xiaozhuyu, who had studied biology in D country for 10 years, and had only managed to return safely to his homeland after much obstruction abroad with the intervention of academician Ma, was the foundation of the domestic soybean field. His sudden references to my student suggested he was truly satisfied with Yang Lin. Beihang District. When Jianzhe came to see the Jian family, Jian Zhonghai was negotiating with President Yin. Jian Rong was talking with Bai Shaoqi and Song Min due to Bai Shuk's connection, and she was acquainted with both. Jianzhe was the only one sitting on the sofa. When he saw Bai Lian's message, he stood up, politely greeted. Grandfather, President Yin. I have to leave early for an errand. Although Jian Zhonghai didn't look highly upon the businessman Bai Qiming, he was quite amiable towards the Yin family firmly established in Jiangjing. When he heard Jianzha's words, he glanced briefly and continued the conversation. He didn't care where Jianzha was going. Since Jianzha had gone to Xiangqing to stand in for Jian Rong, there had been little news, and Jian Zhonghai did not pay much attention to him. However, Jianzha's father wanted to grab his son's ear, but with Jian Zhonghai and President Yin present, he couldn't behave so rudely and only followed Jianzha a little further. Where are you off to? To meet Sister Lian. Jianzha showed his father the message on his phone. She's called me to have late-night food. Sister Lian, always that Sister Lian. Eat, 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 that's all you think about, his father lamented in disappointment. As for Miss Liu, she's now getting along well with Jian Rong. Her father is a renowned professor in the Chinese department at Beijing University, and he even introduced a professor from the Chinese department of Jiang University to Jian Rong. Jianzha recalled and realized Miss Liu was the lady he had been set up with the last time he returned to Beijing. But she seemed to prefer Jian Rong's company. He nodded earnestly. Then I should congratulate Jian Rong. His father looked at Jianzha, at a loss for words. As he passed by Xiaoqi and the others, Jianzha greeted them politely too. Heading out so late? Bai Xiaoqi stood up out of politeness. There aren't many buses around here. I've already called a car, replied Jianzha, showing his phone. After he left, Songmin looked to Bai Xiaoqi with a questioning glance, to which Bai Xiaoqi replied. He's Jian Rong's older cousin. He was sent to Xiangqing in her place before. I haven't seen him in a long time. Songmin nodded, not paying much mind, and President Yin also did not make any special arrangements to have Jianzha driven home. Clearly, the Jian family didn't say much about Jianzha, who had little to show for himself and didn't warrant any special consideration. 10 o'clock. Jianzha arrived at 103, at Bai Lian's request, fetching fruits to room 303. He was already familiar with Ji Heng and the others. At this time Ji Heng, Lance and Dean Jian were playing mahjong. Jianzha effortlessly filled Ji Heng's pipe with tobacco. Dean Jian sat to the left of Ji Heng and looked up at Jianzha. I heard you're preparing for postgraduate studies at Jiang University. How's the review going? There shouldn't be any major issues. Jianzha handed the pipe to Ji Heng. He stood straighter and spoke more confidently than when they first met, exuding an air of dignity. He was vastly different from how he was over half a year ago. It had to be said that Bai Lian was quite good at teaching. Dean Jian didn't like the Jian family people, but he found the current Jianzha quite pleasing. He drew a two of bamboos. Come to the Culture Bureau tomorrow afternoon. I need your assistance. Jianzha carried the fruits back to room 303. Zhang Xiais was chatting with Tang Ming and others, saying, score of 649, ranked 37th in the class. Jianzha wasn't familiar with Zhang Xiais. He left one portion of the fruits and took another to Bai Lian in the study, telling her about Dean Jian's request. Go ahead. Bai Lian's gaze remained on her computer screen as she picked up a strawberry and bit into it leisurely. You could use the practice. Not surprised by this, Jianzha glanced at her computer screen, which was filled with complex graphs, not understanding a single axis, which gave him a headache. He excused himself to join Tang Ming and the others outside for barbecue. The next day, Saturday, Ji Heng and Lance went to the Su family to invite Su in for fishing and to check on Su Siki. Bai Lian, thinking of Su Wenyo's upcoming graduate school exams, decided to join Ji Heng to see Su Wenyao. Today, Jiang Fulai didn't accompany her. As the year-end approached, he was busy preparing for the holiday season. Months passed, and Su Siki's face had grown fuller. Chapter 724. Not so simple niece shocked members of the Jian family. Second update, _1 inch sure. Bai Lian stood up, as Jiang Fulai was almost there. After a moment of thought, she said, I will refer a doctor to Ren Wanxian for her hands, guaranteed to leave no sequelae. Dong Xiaobai was still immersed in shock and hadn't fully recovered. He responded subconsciously, no need, my dad has already found her an old doctor. Bai Lian nodded. All right then. If there are any issues later on, come to me. She said goodbye to Shenqing and Ji Xiaojun. She didn't stay for dinner. After Bai Lian left, Dong Xiaobai turned to Xinqing, sister-in-law Bai Lian. She's also learned calligraphy? Are you talking about Alien? She writes very well. Xinqing had Bai Lian's calligraphy at home. Not understanding calligraphy, Xinqing went to her room, took out the book that Bai Lian had left behind, where she always left her handwriting after reading. Xinqing flipped to the page with the handwriting. Look. Dong Xiaobai looked down. The script was neat and had a unique style. It was a very special Guanga style. Even he was impressed at first glance. But this is Guanga style. Dong Xiaobai went to the Calligraphy Association overnight. When the person in charge of brush and ink sees heard the news, he found Bai Lian's name on the computer, adjusted his glasses and said, Bai Lian, there is such a person, but the president has ordered it personally and the Cultural Affairs Bureau has also approved it. What? The president personally approved it? Dong Xiaobai calmed down. If both the Cultural Bureau and the president had directly approved it, then this matter might not be what he had imagined. This was indeed very strange. After leaving the Calligraphy Association, Dong Xiaobai was hit by the cold wind and called Mu Yining in a low voice. Yining, I always feel that your niece is not so simple. The next day, early in the morning, Ding Wenyang and Tang Ming were among those who received a notice to suspend their lab visits. They were supposed to go to the plasma laboratory over the weekend. Now that they were free, Ding Wenyang took the opportunity to visit Ning Xiao's house. You got a house as a reward from your uncle for getting into university? Ding Wenyang, struck by the sight of Ning Xiao's ordinary clothes, said, Bro, you really got me good. Houses in the school district of Jiangjing are not cheap. Ding Wenyang had always thought Ning Xiao's thrifty family wasn't well off, so he took care of him subtly in everyday life. Ning Xiao, with a slightly gloomy look in his eyes, gave him a glance but didn't reply. After the house visit, Bai Lian happened to return from her morning run. Chapter 725. Not so simple niece, shocked members of the Jian family. Second update. _2 As soon as Jianja saw Ning Xiao, he became respectfully solemn. These were all seniors who'd been admitted to Jiangjing University. Senior, follow me, there are volunteers with sleeve protectors behind. The dean of the Jian family was the main person in charge of this event. He didn't get along well with the Jian family, but Jianja got along well with Bai Lian, and the dean liked what he saw in him. He even introduced Jianja to a few people and distributed some tasks. Ding Wenyang followed the staff to the rest area on the left side of the square, and fastened the sleeve protectors around his arms. It was only after Bai Lian and Jianja had gone out that he tugged at Tang Ming's sleeve and whispered, What kind of high-end event is this really? Can I handle it? I don't know either. Tang Ming adjusted his sleeve protectors, but it should help us gain a lot of points, haha. Ding Wenyang. Sometimes he found Tang Ming's intelligence and sensitivity frightening, yet at other times he thought him to be excessively thick-skinned. The Jian family arrived early. Jian Zhonghai was not accustomed to this weather. He wore a thick coat as he stood at the red carpet entrance of Cultural Square, speaking with Jian Rong. Did you manage to meet with Professor Feng? Professor Feng was indeed the teacher Mr. Liu's daughter had introduced to him. Jian Rong shook his head. A professor from Jiang University was always busy, which was understandable. Jian Zhonghai wasn't surprised. When your second granduncle arrives, remember to greet him right away. He'll acknowledge you after all. Grandfather, don't worry. As the Jian family was talking, Jianja came their way with a girl and volunteers. Jian Rong recognized the girl at the front at a glance. Her face was slightly downcast. She wore a top with peepa sleeves, the cuffs tightly gathered. Below was a white pleated skirt, its base lightly colored, embroidered at the bottom with alternating lines of iridescent gold and blue thread, showcasing an elaborate pattern. On top were red chamomile flowers, with butterflies fluttering amongst them. A pure white cape was draped over her, interwoven with green grapevines. Sensing the gaze, she looked over lazily. Her beauty was fresh, and the cold winter sunlight illuminated her from behind, radiating a certain indescribable charm. Jian Rong was taken aback for a moment. Even though he had only seen her once, he recognized her as a contestant from last year's Lanting Awards in Jiangjing, who also seemed to be from Xiangqing. Jianrong vaguely remembered that he had drawn a trip to Xiangqing, but in the end, Jianzhe went in his place. Upon seeing Jian Zhonghai and his father, Jianzhe greeted them politely. "Grandfather, father." Jian Zhonghai looked at Jianzhe and the group of unfamiliar volunteers accompanying him, then withdrew his gaze, not lingering any longer. "I asked you to come with your grandfather, but you didn't," Jianrong's father whispered in his ear. "Now you're with these kids later on, just follow me. Your grandfather came here specifically for your second granduncle. Jianrong is here too, and you can't be absent." Jianzhe was just about to speak. Ahead, the person in charge of Cultural Square was leading several smartly dressed individuals their way, followed by a couple of reporters taking photos of the elderly among them, obviously important figures. Jian Zhonghai recognized one of them at first glance and quickly perked up. "Professor Feng." Jianrong also shifted his gaze away from Bai Lian and went to greet Professor Feng. "Professor Feng, you are here today as well?" Professor Feng was a professor from the Chinese Literature Department at Jiang University. Jianrong's father, watching the mingling of the group, tugged at Jianzhe's sleeve. "See that? That's Professor Feng. You should have met him originally." "I'm here for the cultural exchange to broaden my horizons." Professor Feng squinted slightly as he noticed Jianrong and then recognized him. "Ah, it's you, Jianrong." Professor Feng could tell at a glance that he wasn't very familiar with Jian Zhonghai and Jianrong. He stood on the side, waiting for the elderly man to finish his interview. He turned his head and spoke briefly to Jianrong with little interest. When he turned his head, he saw a girl standing beside Jianzhe, looking down at her phone. Professor Feng was astonished and quickly called out, "Bai student?" Bai Lian looked up in response. "It really is you, Bai student." Professor Feng's eyes brightened as he walked over, now speaking warmly with Jianrong. "Bai student, you know Jianrong and the others?" "Indeed, look." Because Jianzhe had greeted Jian Zhonghai, they were all standing close to each other. Professor Feng subconsciously thought they knew each other. "I don't know them." Bai Lian shook her head. "Don't know them?" Professor Feng didn't ask further, but instead looked up at Dean Xu, who was still being interviewed, and called out, "Dean, Bai student is here too." Professor Feng was one of Dean Xu's teaching assistants, and Bai Lian had met her in the office before. Bai Lian also recognized Professor Feng, and looking up again, saw Dean Xu declining the reporter's interview and walking over. He was dressed in a dark blue long gown, a wise and gentle elder. His temperament clearly distinguished him from others. "Dean Xu," Bai Lian gripped her phone, also somewhat surprised to see him there. "You're here too?" "Yes, the Cultural Bureau asked me to oversee the event." Seeing Bai Lian, Dean Xu was also pleased, his face much kinder. "Let's go in and talk." Chapter 726. 288 The most untouchable person in Jiangjing _1 Jian. Zhe was never a standout among the Jian family's young generation, benefiting only slightly due to being the grandson of Jian Zhonghai. Yet he still could not compare to Jianrong. Jian Zhonghai, ever eager for quick success and instant benefit, focused all his attention on Jianrong. The only time he expressed concern for Jianzhe was when Jianrong was chosen by the Beijing Writers Association to go to Xiangqing, and Jianzhe actively proposed an exchange. If it weren't for this trip to Jiangjing, where Jianzhe came to visit him, Jian Zhonghai would have almost forgotten about this grandchild. The dean of the Chinese department at Jiang University? What's the deal with Jianzhe? Is he planning to apply for a postgrad at Jiang University? After Professor Feng went to the restroom, Jian Zhonghai turned to Jian's father beside him. "And who's that girl with him?" With just a few lines of conversation, everyone present could tell the girl was very familiar with Dean Xu, and she introduced Jianzhe to Dean Xu as well. "He never told me he was applying to Jiang University." Jian's father had always resented Jianzhe for not being more ambitious. Watching Jianzhe's retreating back, he had not processed the information. That girl. She must be the one he often mentions. The first day was the opening ceremony, where calligraphers from all corners of the country gathered in Jiangjing. Waiting for the grand event, some were also hoping to seize the opportunity to show off their talents and become overnight sensations. It was quite lively. Meanwhile, at the Mu family, Mu Yining had her assistant Wang arrange for a time slot early in the morning. She had learned from Dong Xiao by the day before that Bai Lian was attending the Four-Nation exchange event and felt uneasy. This was a national event, after all. I've never heard of Miss Bai being proficient in Liang-style calligraphy. The building butler furrowed his brows. He only knew that Bai Lian's academic achievements were impressive, superior even to those of the past Mu Qiong. Chun, the old master, will also be present, with media and people from other countries in attendance. Are they really allowing Miss Bai to perform? I don't know. Mu Yining made a call to Ji Xiaojun. Ji Xiaojun was also unaware of this. You mean alien? She has been busy with lab work recently. Lab work. Mu Yining paused for a moment, then hung up the phone. Miss Bai went to the lab this early? The building butler was startled, then remembered something. I heard from the son-in-law before that Miss Ren practices calligraphy every day, and she is personally coached by people from the Calligraphy Association and Old Master Dong. Chapter 727. 288 The most untouchable person in Jiangjing _2, he flipped back to the group of socialites in Jiangjing. Above was news about tonight's gathering, to which Ren Wanxian replied that she'd be there. Then she put away her phone. Dusk. Shanghai apartment was still bustling. Tang Ming, Ning Xiao, and Ding Wenyang had volunteered outside all day, seen a lot, and were dining at 103 in the evening. Meanwhile, Bai Lian had returned to 303 for a bit, before heading off to Sun Qian's banquet. Beneath the glittering lights of the Sijing Club, Kong Wei squatted down at the bottom of the stairs with a gift, speaking to Yu Simin. Simin, should we even be here? Yu Simin's family was better off than Kong Weiss, but she had only heard of the Sijing Club. She had never been inside and had also hesitated, as she heard it hosted the real top-tier rich second generations of Jiangjing. I don't know, the address for Sun Qian's birthday party is here. Let's wait for Lian Lian to arrive and then follow her in. Plus, I can get her to help circle out some content for the final exams. Although Bai Lian was not often seen in room 407, both Kong Wei and Sun Qian seemed to rely on her, intentionally or not. Before long, Bai Lian arrived with a computer and gifts in tow. Yu Simin and Kong Wei finally felt like they found their backbone, and followed close behind Bai Lian. The hostesses at the entrance of Sijing Club wore fur-trimmed kipeos, security staff were in suits and leather shoes, the female attendants were beautiful, and the male ones handsome. They all took notice of the trio as they entered. The lobby supervisor, who had been giving instructions, perked up at the sight. He quickly came over to lead the way for Bai Lian and her party. Do you need me to carry something for you? The lobby manager, along with the rest of the staff at the Sijing Club, remembered Bai Lian's face very clearly from the summer holidays. Carrying a small gift bag in her computer, Bai Lian walked unhurriedly. No need. It's a bit cramped over there, you see, said the lobby manager respectfully after checking the private room and offering. Pressing the elevator button to the furthest right, he inquired, would you like to change to the VIP room on the top floor? Bai Lian continued to shake her head. Behind her, the staff were also very polite to Yu Simin and Kong Wei, warm and thorough. Upon reaching the private room, Sun Qian came out to greet them. Seeing the manager, she was also taken aback, greeting him politely, Manager Ku, hello. After sending Manager Ku off, Sun Qian expressed her surprise. Why did Manager Ku send you over? Kong Wei didn't know who Manager Ku was and merely handed her gift to Sun Qian. The service attitude here is really good. The private room was resplendent, with small groups gathered, and the music never ceasing. Chapter 728. 288 The most untouchable person in Jiangjing _3 Yes, even students at Jiang University are afraid of failing a class. Sun Qian coldly asked Kong Wei to send it to her. At that moment, someone pushed open the door of the private room again. This time, it was a young woman who pushed open the door, wearing a beige cheongsam and a black coat over it. As soon as she entered, the young masters and misses present were taken aback, then all stood up. Even Sun Qian, who was sitting next to Bai Lian and others, stood up and walked to the door. Second miss. Su Jini glanced indifferently around the room, her gaze pausing slightly on Bai Lian. The young woman's traditional clothing and overly delicate face caught her attention for a moment, But just for a moment. I was upstairs just now and heard your brother mention that it's your birthday today, so I specially came to congratulate you. Su Jini handed the gift she was holding to Sun Qian. Thank you, second miss. Sun Qian replied with great respect. Su Jini had little to talk about with the group downstairs, so after handing the gift to Sun Qian, she left. After she left, some of the socialites and young masters let out a sigh of relief and started discussing quietly. Ren Wanxian also lowered her voice to inquire. That second miss is? Su Jini, the Sun family's second young miss. In our circle, you can offend anyone but not her. A male student beside Ren Wanxian explained. Is that so? Ren Wanxian withdrew her gaze in a trance. She had thought she was already at the top of the social circle. I've never heard of her before. She doesn't play around with us, someone shrugged. That's Su Nanjing's biological cousin, the girl whom Mrs. Su likes the most. The man she just mentioned is Sun Qian's brother Sun Feng. Those who play with her are from Su Nanjing's crowd, the real power players. We are just here to while away the time. In room 407, both Sun Qian and Bai Lian were study fanatics. After Bai Lian outlined the key points of complex functions, Sun Qian sat next to her, scrutinizing them intently. Kong Wei and Yu Ximin were laughing and playing pool on the side. Kong Wei didn't quite get it, so Yu Ximin taught her. They were laughing and playing, unconcerned with the stares from others. Today was Sun Qian's birthday, and realizing she wasn't quite comfortable with the setting either, Bai Lian kept her laptop on her lap without leaving early. She pointed at the screen, drawing the material diagrams Ning Xiao needed. The diagram she was working on was beyond Sun Qian's study range, so after glancing at it, Sun Qian continued with her complex functions. This year's basic physics complex function exam questions were set by a teacher from the math department, who was quite familiar with Bai Lian. Bai Lian helped them to inquire about the key topics. Chapter 729. 289 The old ancestor leading their cause returns. Second update. _1 Bai Lian nodded, saying unhurriedly, right. Mu Yining exchanged glances with Dong Xiaobai, particularly Dong Xiaobai, for whom Bai Lian's answer was unexpected yet reasonable. Though they were surprised, both of them also breathed a sigh of relief. How well have you learned the Liang style? Dong Xiaobai inquired. Bai Lian narrowed her eyes slightly. It's okay. It's okay. Liang style is difficult to learn as it requires great wrist strength. Dong Xiaobai nodded, not surprised that there were only a few in Jiangjing who were proficient in Liang style. But it doesn't matter, we have communicated with tomorrow's event staff, you just need to perform normally. As long as Bai Lian knew it, that was enough. Dong Xiaobai completely put his mind at ease, knowing that as long as Bai Lian could do Liang style, and since the main shots tomorrow weren't focused on her, there was no need to worry. After Bai Lian went upstairs, he made a call to Elder Dong. The next day, Cultural Square. Dong Xiaobai kindly brought Ren Wanxian along. Ren Wengshuan's hand was bandaged in plaster, her complexion pale, and Dong Chuan accompanied her. Dong Xiaobai introduced her to a young woman. Wanxian, this is Yajun, whom I've mentioned to you. She is currently the #1 in Liang style at the Calligraphy Association, personally taught by the former president. Yajun, this is Wanxian, Xiaochuan's girlfriend. Su Yajun glanced over Ren Wanxian and nodded with a smile. Hello, I'm Su Yajun. Ren Wanxian looked at Su Yajun. In fact, they had met last year in Xiangqing. But back then, she wasn't important enough to catch Su Yajun's attention, and Su Yajun didn't even remember her. She was now only wondering if Su Yajun had any relation to Su Jini from last night since they shared the same surname. Hello. Su Yajun didn't remember, but Ren Wanxian wouldn't bring it up either. Su Yajun seemed to be in a rush, exchanged hasty greetings, and then left. After Su Yajun had gone, Dong Xiaobai then said to Ren Wanxian, surprised that I specifically introduced Miss Su to you? Please tell me. Su Yajun comes from an average background, used to live in the suburbs and now resides in Guangyuan district. But that's not important, Dong Chuan, still looking where Su Yajun had left, explained on behalf of Dong Xiaobai. What's important is her other identity, as a student of the president of the Calligraphy Association. She's young, and without any surprises, she should be the next president of the Calligraphy Association. And the current president of the Calligraphy Association is a trusted confidant of the Chen family's patriarch. The president of the Calligraphy Association practices Liang-style calligraphy and is the sect leader of the Guzheng schools, who first became famous because of the white robe journey. Both masters have a special relationship with the Chen family's patriarch. Actually, seeing the trends of the recent years, one knows why Liang style has become so prevalent. It's all pushed by the Chen family from behind. The Chen family is a grand clan with 1,000 years of legacy, numerous family members, leaders in politics, elites in scientific research, magnates in commerce. They have a presence in almost every field. Many people seek connections to join the Calligraphy Association, simply to integrate into this circle. Fawning over elegance is merely incidental. Run Wanxian seemed to understand but not quite grasp it all. The resting room in the innermost area. Outside the door, 3 black-suited bodyguards stood guard. Inside the resting room, Su Yajun paused her writing, waiting for the ink to dry. Next to her, the president picked up her writing and brought it to the Yuanyue tea house, to show the Chen family patriarch sitting in the middle. The Chen family patriarch was watching Ding Jian make tea, the latter's actions taking him by surprise. "Who did you learn this from?" "A white porcelain's snowy froth exuding fragrance." "From a young friend." Ding Jian placed the tea set down with a gentle tap 3 times and handed the tea to the Chen family patriarch. "Later on, I'll introduce her to you. You'll surely like her." The two enjoyed their tea, whilst appreciating the calligraphy brought over by the president of the Calligraphy Association. Ding Jian also admired the writing. Yajun's calligraphy skills have improved quite a bit. This piece, if auctioned, would certainly fetch a good price. Su Yajun, being a student of the president of the Calligraphy Association, naturally received strong support from them. With her good looks and great talent, writing mainstream Liang style, she also became a small calligraphy star with many calligraphy fans. Rarely willing to endure the hardships of practice, the patriarch of the Chen family also nodded with a look of appreciation on his face. Although not as good as the ancestors, as a girl naturally with less wrist strength, she has already begun to show her own character. The president of the Calligraphy Association smiled, taking the piece and brought it to Su Yajun. "The old patriarch has a high opinion of you. But you still need to remain humble and continue learning. Let's display this piece at our station in the center to show and let them take pictures." Su Yajun did not show joy but accepted it with respect. "Yes, teacher." After Ding Jian saw off the old patriarch, Old Hu waited outside for him. "It's a pity," as he took the schedule from Old Hu's hand, Ding Jian sighed. Su Yajun's age was a bit over the limit. Otherwise, if she were the youth representative this time, I wouldn't have to worry. Chapter 730. 289 The old ancestor leading their cause returns. Second update. _2 He had played mahjong with Ji Heng a couple days ago, probing for information in a roundabout way. But he didn't get any news about Bai Lian and her mastery of the Liang style. "You needn't worry too much," Lao Hu said, choosing his words to comfort. "Miss Bai always has her own way of thinking. Plus, our foreign friends don't understand our characters. At most, it's the fans of the Liang style who might have a few more things to say." Director Jian also considered that Bai Lian was not a person to act impulsively, especially because he had been wondering for a long time whether Bai Lian could use the spear. So could she possibly master the Liang style calligraphy? That's why he didn't reject her when he first saw Bai Lian's name. The immense indoor plaza of Cultural Square. The floor inside the plaza was entirely covered with a red carpet, hosting countless small exhibition stands for calligraphy and paintings, and the central sunken stage area was where the opening ceremony would take place. All around the stage, fresh peonies and plum blossoms were set up, with pink and red peonies blooming in a gorgeous display of cold elegance and nobility. There were journalists packed on both sides. Only 4 rows of seating, 10 in each row, were for foreign guests and VIPs. Of the Beijing Writers Association, only Zhou Wennan had the privilege to sit in the back row to spectate, while other Beijing folks, like the journalists, stood around the perimeter. The Jian family members naturally did the same. But the Jian family members, with their sharp eyes, spotted a young man sitting next to Zhou Wenan in the back row. "Master," the old man who followed Jian Zhonghai whispered in shock. "How is young Master Jianzhe sitting there?" The eyes of the Jian family were all fixed on the central exhibition stage. At the old man's mention, they then noticed that the label stuck behind the first seat from the left in the back row bore just 2 characters, Jianzhe. From the beginning with Director Xu to the present, the Jian family members were becoming desperately curious to know why this was happening. To be seated here, one must be a master in the field of calligraphy, or someone with significant influence among calligraphers. Jianzhe. He had no relation to any of this, right? Old Master Chen was seated in the center of the first row, with orderly media taking photos and filming the entire event. Bodyguards stood at the sides of the first row. Outside the cordon, police with weapons were maintaining order. With Old Master Chen personally attending today, the number of reporters coming and going was double that of yesterday. Backstage, the green room was heated. Bai Lian took off her overcoat, wearing only a white dress with tea-colored flowers. Chapter 731. 289 The old ancestor leading their cause returns. Second update. _3. I checked. And although she's a member of the Xiangqing Calligraphy Association, her calligraphy level is 0? The Sino-Japanese Korean cultural exchange wasn't very popular, and the official live broadcast room only had a few tens of thousands of enthusiasts online. But due to Bai Lian's high popularity last time, many people clicked directly into the stream. Moreover, the gimmick of a calligraphy level of 0 drew in quite a few viewers. Many people present were simultaneously watching the live stream and the event. Mu Yining noticed that the camera was almost always on Bai Lian, with only occasional glimpses of Kai Xian. A few young people studying calligraphy nearby also received this news. Mu Yining paused. She hasn't passed any level tests? Hadn't Bai Lian claimed her calligraphy was decent? Of course, that wasn't the issue now. Mu Yining looked at Dong Xiaobai. Didn't you talk to Minister Kai about this? Why is the camera always on alien? Dong Xiaobai also found it odd. He took out his phone, even more anxious than Mu Yining. Don't worry, I'll ask. If there was a mistake at this conference, the Dong family would be the first to bear the brunt. They might even fade out of this circle in the future. Dong Xiaobai was already regretting why he had introduced Ren Wanxian in the first place. But no one answered Minister Kai's phone calls. Both Dong Xiaobai and Mu Yining were clever people. Seeing that nobody answered Minister Kai's calls, they pretty much understood why. Dong Xiaobai felt a cold sweat on his back. Backstage, Minister Kai turned off his cell phone and tossed it aside. He slowly pulled out a cigarette, speaking leisurely. Keep the cameras on this, Bai Lian. Not giving Master Kai the spotlight? The staff member was startled. Minister Kai lit his cigarette, the smoke curling. No need. Well, give Kaizen's writing a shot after she finishes writing. Our Kai Xian doesn't care about these things. You're really generous, the staff member said earnestly. After all, the Sino-Japanese Korean cultural exchange was the fastest way to gain fame. Minister Kai flicked the ash from his cigarette, smiling subtly. Dong Xiaobai was so anxious, calling him, inviting him to meals, all to cover up Bai Lian's abilities. He hadn't really done anything except direct the cameras a bit. After all, the representation of the youth was solely taken over by the Dong family, and if there were to be any problems, they would ultimately be traced back to them. He and Dong Xiaobai were rivals. In order to bring Dong Xiaobai down, Minister Kai didn't even save face for Mu Yining this time. There were sacrifices to be made, and they spared no effort. Chapter 732. 290 Spears break through the waves. Holding a pen to test the sharpness _1 The president of the Calligraphy Association knew that this year's female participant was the same one who won first place in last year's Orchid Pavilion Award. Although her calligraphy had not been collected by the association last year, he still remembered the strength and vigor of her handiwork. It hadn't even been more than a year. Seeing her work today, he felt shocked by her calligraphy once again, realizing that in just over a year, her skills had improved by more than just a little bit. The camera had forgotten to switch to Kai Xian. It wasn't until Bai Lian and Kai Xian left the stage that the camera begrudgingly gave Kai Xian a moment of airtime. But by then, the camera's focus had lost its significance, as all attention, both on and off camera, was on Bai Lian. Nobody paid attention to Kai Xian, who shared the stage with her. The front row, old Master Qin, dressed in a long robe, had been watching the girl the whole time, and finally reacted when he saw the two of them leaving the stage, standing up abruptly with a thud. Next to him, Dean Jian hurriedly got to his feet. Old Master Qin. The Jian family was a prestigious literary family, and Dean Jian, having been immersed in the world of calligraphy from a young age, also had the ability to appreciate it. Bai Lian's Liang style had struck him as unique. Nowadays, most people's calligraphy is based purely on copying others, polished from start to finish, rarely reflecting any sense of beauty or artistry. Bai Lian's writing, however, with its rustic heaviness, seemed to come at them with the vigor and skeletal strength of ancient windswept grass. Old Master Chen's gaze still lingered on the left side of the stage. Realizing the event had not ended, he felt he had lost his composure and reseated himself, not even turning his head. "Who is that girl?" "She's the child I wanted to introduce to you," said Dean Jian, surprised at Old Master Chen's reaction. He knew Old Master Chen always took great interest in anything related to the Bai family, but he hadn't expected such a strong reaction. Old Master Chen hummed in acknowledgement. The other executives at the pen and ink ocean, sitting beside him, exchanged glances and silently instructed their subordinates to find out more about this girl. Backstage. Having completed her task for the day, Bai Lian left after getting off the stage. She picked up a cloak nearby and walked out the door. At the back door, Jiang Fulai was waiting for her. He had donned a cap and leaned casually against the doorframe, the brim pulled low so only his firm jaw was visible, his pale and slender fingers fiddling absent-mindedly with a cell phone. Only when he heard footsteps did he turn his head slightly. Chapter 733. 290 spears pierced through the wind and waves, holding a pen to test the sharpness _2. But today, she heard something shocking in Dong Xiaobai's tone. "I didn't hear Xiaojun and the others mention it." Dong Xiaobai's reaction meant that Bai Lian hadn't made any mistakes this time, which allowed Mu Yining to breathe a sigh of relief. Then Minister Kai, she narrowed her eyes slightly. The Mu family was keeping a low profile these days, not actively provoking anyone, but not afraid of trouble either. Minister Kai could refuse, but that might prompt Mu Yining to approach someone else. However, after agreeing and then creating obstacles when the program was truly underway, Mu Yining wouldn't let it go just like that. Beside them, Dong Chuan was also very surprised. After having dinner at the Mu family's home last time, he had heard Dong Xiaobai mentioning Bai Lian. At that time, he knew that Bai Lian was an outstanding student at Jiang University. However, it was only today that he found out she was also skilled in calligraphy. Before he could react, a member of the Calligraphy Association came over. "Mr. Dong, the president is looking for you." "The president?" Dong Xiaobai gathered his thoughts. "He's looking for me at this time?" Despite his confusion, Dong Xiaobai told Mu Yining to take Dong Chuan and run Wanqian out for a stroll, while he went to the back lounge to meet the president. The lounge. When Dong Xiaobai arrived, the president of the Calligraphy Association was standing respectfully on one side, with Minister Kai and others present. The atmosphere was very quiet. Only an elderly man was sitting in the chair at the center. As soon as Dong Xiaobai entered the lounge, he felt the solemn atmosphere and quickly bowed respectfully, greeting, "Elder Qin." Elder Qin lifted his eyes to ask for his name and his position in the Calligraphy Association. After a few questions, he finally said, "Is Bai Lian someone your Dong family recommended?" "She is also my niece," Dong Xiaobai said. "Niece, good, very good. At such a young age to have such strength, to have such." Elder Chen looked at him, his gaze much more amiable. "You all have done an excellent job this time." The president of the Calligraphy Association then smiled and spoke up. "Not only that, she herself has brought a lot of attention. It's been less than an hour since the event, and the internet is full of her short video clips. We've decided to frame her calligraphy and set up a separate booth for her in the center to attract more young visitors to the exhibition." In the room, Everyone realized that the organizers greatly appreciated Bai Lian. Of course, among the younger members of the Calligraphy Association, no one else could compare to her. A group of people were discussing enthusiastically. Chapter 734. 290 spears cut through the wind and waves. Holding a pen to test the edge _3 seeing no sign of Bai Lian, Ding Jian grew impatient and decided to return to Chang'an district with Jianjia, heading straight to Shanghai apartment to wait for Bai Lian. After all, the guzheng, the long spear, the Liang-style calligraphy. Ding Jian reflected on the past events. Even the old Mr. Chen did not wait any longer. Together, the two of them exited the main entrance. Outside, the Jian family had been on stakeout for Ding Jian since yesterday, but when Ding Jian came by yesterday, surrounded by a swarm of security guards and reporters, they were kept beyond the security line. Unable to speak to Ding Jian for the entire day, they had come early in the morning today to stake out again. Upon catching sight of Ding Jian from afar, Jian Zhonghai hurried excitedly in that direction. Yet he was still stopped by the security on site. "Old sir, please do not cross the security line." "That is my brother." Jian Zhonghai gazed in the direction of Jian Zhongyou, his voice rising. "Zhongyou, Zhongyou." Ding Jian bent down and got into the car. Without looking back, the security guards, with forced smiles, blocked the other members of the Jian family. "There are others who claim to be the long-lost sons and daughters of Ding Jian, sir. Please do not make it difficult for us." Jian Zhonghai was a figure of some standing in Beicheng, and this was the first time he had been treated with such passive aggressiveness. His aged face struggled to remain composed. Beside him, an elderly member of the Jian family squinted at another silhouette entering the car and was slightly stunned. "Old master, look, isn't that young Master Jianjia getting on the car? Today is Monday. The physics department has its routine meeting in the afternoon." Dean Huang sat at the front with his hands resting on the table, palms together, surveying the room. "Zhua, what about your project?" His gaze settled on Zhua Jinhua. Dean Huang supervised many students, but had only a few direct disciples. Some were assisting at Academician Moss Research Institute. Zhua Jinhua was a quasi-free-range doctoral student. Missing an opportunity in this year's mathematical modeling competition, his performance fell short, and he had not yet been promoted to a professional title, nor had he been promoted to associate professor. Bai Lian was his future junior sister, and without even thinking, Dean Huang knew how brilliant the path ahead for Bai Lian and her line would be. He had recently heard that Bai Lian and Ning Xiao had been in Academician Moss lab. During this period, Sun Fu let Bai Lian and the others leave the lab, and Dean Huang did not try to persuade Sun Fu otherwise. He was willing to give Zhua Jinhua a chance. Chapter 735. 290 spears tear through the wind and waves. Holding a pen to test the blade _4, Bai Lian pressed the button on her phone to return a call to Dean Huang. "I haven't decided which lab specifically," said Dean Huang, who wasn't in a rush. "Why don't you directly go to the teacher's lab? You would definitely like that." Dean Huang understood his mentor. Ever since Jiang he was 6 years old, Academician Ma had wanted to lure him into the lab. "It's not the time yet," Bai Lian replied. Dean Huang thought that made sense. "Then I'll make a list for you tonight. You can take a look and find one that you think is suitable." He hoped that this time he could find a research center with a better atmosphere for Bai Lian. After hanging up, Bai Lian went downstairs. Ming Dongheng was waiting for her downstairs, and once he confirmed that Bai Lian was going to the restaurant in Cultural Square, he drove straight there. The hotel near Cultural Square was where Zhou Wennan and Qiu Xuezheng were. And with Zhou Wennan being the vice president of the Beijing Calligraphy Association, and quite familiar with Bai Lian, he always took special care of the Xiangqing Calligraphy Association. As soon as Bai Lian got out of the car, she felt that someone was watching her, secretly taking pictures. But because Ming Dongheng was following her, no one dared to approach. This feeling after the welcome meeting as well, made her raise an eyebrow. Meanwhile, the Dong family. Old Master Dong didn't go out today and was worried about the exhibition. After Dong Xiaobai and Dong Chuan returned, he got up and asked, "The Kai family didn't pull any tricks, did they?" "Well, Dong Xiaobai snapped back to reality, his expression strange. They moved all the cameras to focus on Alien. What? Old Master Dong put his teacup down with a smack, his face darkening. I knew they were up to no good. Dad, don't worry just yet, said Dong Xiaobai with a smile. We've actually benefited from this misfortune. Yining's niece, her calligraphy is even better than Wangshuan's. Her. Old Master Dong was also stunned. She's a student at Jiang University and she knows calligraphy too? Yeah, Dong Xiaobai said softly. Even better than Su Yajun. As Su Yajun was considered a benchmark among female practitioners in the industry, Old Master Dong almost gasped. Why have I never heard her name? Who is her mentor? Dong Chuan, who was casually listening to their conversation, opened WeChat intending to ask Ren Wanxian, but then noticed a push notification for a short video. It clearly read, Ink and See Calligraphy Exchanged by Lian. He paused for a moment, then clicked on it. Bai Lian had been a sensation on the internet before. Once the official live stream of the Ink and See event was released, many netizens recognized her. Chapter 736, 291 Godlike by Jian_1. Top comment in the comment section. Snack-eating citizen Little Wang. By Lian, member of Xiangqing Calligraphy Association. Calligraphy level. Has never participated in grading exams. Awards won. First prize in the 9th Lanting Award. Someone replied below. Most people probably have never heard of the Lanting Award. Let me educate everyone. The Lanting Award occurs once every 3 years, with groupings, and getting a third-place award allows entry into the National Calligraphy Association. There are typically 3 first-place awards and 6 second-place awards. However, last year, which was the 9th Lanting Award, there was only 1 first-place award. The usual seeded contestants from the Calligraphy Association, Su Yajun and Xie Jinyuan, ended up with second-place awards, and those previously in the running for second place were moved to third place. For this reason, the 9th Lanting Awards Youth Prize became the one with the highest gold content in history. That first-place winner with no competitors is our Bai Lian flower. Hold on, out of curiosity, I looked it up, and has anyone noticed the name Bai Lian Yu seems familiar? Image. Bai Jian? Is she also a fan of Yan Lu and the Jian God? How is that possible? The Lanting Award was more than 2 months earlier than gambling with liquor. Could it be a coincidence? Speaking of which, our Jiang University app also has a big-name god with the same name. The netizens began to argue over Bai Lian's name used at the Lanting Award, but Dong Chuan didn't continue reading. He wasn't well-versed in the entertainment industry. Instead, he turned to the elder Mr. Dong. Grandpa, Bai Lian was last year's first prize winner of the Lanting Award. The two who were discussing Bai Lian's calligraphy suddenly fell silent. The Dong family had been quite excited when they first heard that Ren Wanxian was studying art, practicing the Liang style. To them, the Liang style was not just the Liang style, it was also a foot in the door. Mastering the Liang style, and doing it well is a different concept from winning the Lanting Award. This year's Pen and Ink Vast Ocean 4 Nations Exchange, due to Bai Lian's participation, was frighteningly popular. Vice Chairman Liang of the Cultural Bureau hadn't even considered how to increase the buzz. By afternoon, a throng of tourists had surged into the venue. People continued to come and go until the evening. What on earth is going on? Vice Chairman Liang was somewhat perplexed as he ordered stepped-up arrangements, emergency meetings, and intensified promotion of the cultural philosophy for the event. The publicity department quickly traced the source of the whole affair. Vice Chairman, take a look at these videos. After watching the netizens' edits and checking the online popularity, Vice Chairman Liang asked, is all this because of her? Of course, Jiang University's top entrance exam star this year. The young person from the publicity department had previously scrolled past Bai Lian's long post. Vice Chairman, with her here, I believe this year's Pen and Ink Vast Ocean won't lack popularity. Vice Chairman Liang looked down at the list. He felt that the publicity department's statement sounded familiar. Thinking about it more carefully, it seemed that last week, when Dean Jian received the new list, he had also said something similar. At a restaurant near Cultural Square, Qiu Xuezheng and Zhou Wennan had drunk quite a bit. Qiu Xuezheng lived nearby. He walked with his hands clasped behind his back, alongside Zhou Wennan heading back. Deputy Zhou, you live in Chang'an District. Could you go back with Bai Lian? Zhou Wennan played a crucial role in the success of the Xiangqing Calligraphy Association to date. No need, my younger brother will come to pick me up. Zhou Wennan smiled and shook his head. Well then, I'll submit another application for the Xiangqing Calligraphy Association. How many applications did you receive today? 986 just today. Qiu Xuezheng marveled. And this was only the first day. In Jiangjing, they hadn't felt it yet, but as reported by the Xiangqing Calligraphy Association, by this afternoon, the number of people strolling on Wallow Street had exploded, with many out-of-town visitors queuing up at the Calligraphy Association to experience traditional culture. The Xiangqing Calligraphy Association was not large, and the Cultural Bureau had sent an additional 20 people to help, already starting to limit the flow of visitors. This was the era of information explosion through viral content. More extravagant than Qiu Xuezheng had imagined. Bai Lian stood by the roadside, waiting to see Zhou Wennan off. From behind, Ming Dongheng silently handed her a black cape. There was no snow these past days, but the temperature in Jiangjing remained very low. Qiu Xuezheng rubbed his hands together, blowing out clouds of white breath, still discussing the future direction of the Xiangqing Calligraphy Association with Zhou Wennan. Bai Lian had good physical resilience, and wasn't as susceptible to the cold as others. She casually draped the black cape over her shoulders. It wasn't made by Ji Heng, with black velvet fabric, a Chinese-style design, broad sleeves on the sides, and thick white fur sewn at the cuffs and collar. Aside from a lifelike red rose on the left side of the collar, there were no other decorations. Simple and elegant. Zhou Wennan's car slowly approached, the speed lowered, and the person in the driver's seat got out, greeting Qiu Xuezheng. His gaze shifted to Bai Lian standing nearby. Bai Lian? Professor Zhou? Bai Lian also felt surprised that Zhou Wenqing was actually Zhou Wennan's brother. Wenqing, you know each other? Zhou Wennan pulled out a cigarette and handed it to Qiu Xuezheng. Then looking at the two, he also realized. Right, you are both from Jiang University. After saying that, he continued to discuss today's matter with Qiu Xuezheng. Zhou Wenqing didn't know much about calligraphy art, so he talked to Bai Lian about the classes she missed at the Tongfeng group today, and about the next literature report. Bai Lian lowered her head, meticulously straightened her cloak sleeve, listened to him finish, then asked, Professor Zhou, how many members are in your lab? Ning Xiao often went to help Zhou Wenqing, and Bai Lian knew Zhou Wenqing was also working on projects at the moment. The Zhou family studied a variety of fields, with some in politics, some researching literature, and some engaged in scientific research. Zhou Wenqing lacked a foundation at Jiang University. For members, Ning Xiao sometimes comes over to help them, but Ning Xiao is just organizing data. The entire mentor group was in a state of limbo. Zhou Wennan finished chatting with Qiu Xuezheng before getting into the car and leaving. Zhou Wenqing in the car. Zhou Wennan sat in the passenger seat, and after a few words about Bai Lian and the Calligraphy Association, he remembered the main issue. Dad went to Xiangqing to inquire for you, but so far there's no news. Zhou Wenqing's hand rested on the steering wheel. No worries, just keep an eye out for me. For the application you submitted, I remember Jiang University has its allocations, right? Zhou Wennan asked. Green light. Zhou Wenqing started the car. The price is high, output even lower, the quotas are limited each year, all allocated to key projects. The portion allocated to my lab was used up by June this year. It couldn't be helped. This was a metal scarce across the entire world. Zhou Wenqing's main research focus was also this, and with the experiment halted, he had accepted the task of guiding new students assigned by the Physics Institute to earn a bit of performance pay to support the lab. Jiangjing University, Girls' Dormitory 407. After returning, Bai Lian saw Kong Wei sitting at her spot browsing her phone, with Yu Ximin's hand on her chair, watching along. And as soon as Bai Lian came back, both their gazes turned towards her without a word. Bai Lian paused, first looking towards Sun Qian, who lifted her head from the desk, indicating she was clueless. Fine, Bai Lian closed the door of the dormitory behind her, sat down calmly in her chair, set up her computer, and leisurely logged into WeChat to type out a message for Ning Xiao to send the data over. She still had to help Ning Xiao with the graphs. Dean Huang's message also popped up at that time. A list of academic labs with good atmospheres that he had screened. Dean Huang. Choose one. Bai Lian's fingertips rested on the mouse, zoomed in for a glance, and didn't see any familiar names before replying. Frowny face. Professor Zhou also has projects. Can we join his lab? Chapter 737. 292. Are you going back to Bomjiangjing? Second update. _1 Bai Lian was still examining the atomic arrangements at various temperature points in the simulation process when 5-bar graphs unfolded. She plotted the MSD versus time curve, fitted a straight line, and differentiated a ratio to replace the slope, her brows and eyes still. Why do you ask? You two use the same screen name. Do you know each other? Kong Wei asked earnestly, glancing at Bai Lian's computer. At a glance, she saw the bar graphs, the NPT system above with a simulation time of 195 ps written below, followed by the interfacial energy. Her eyes blurred from gazing too hard, and she quickly averted her gaze. Bai Lian tilted her head slightly and said unhurriedly, sort of. Kong Wei had simply blurted out the question on a whim, not expecting to receive such an answer, and realizing she had interrupted Bai Lian's research, she hopped back to her own desk. She exchanged glances with Yu Simin. Sort of, what does that mean? She asked in all sincerity. Sort of know each other? Yu Simin looked at her with frustration. You should have asked whether it's a boy or girl, how old they are this year. Tuesday early morning. Bai Lian finally returned to the Tongfeng class for lessons. Having taken a week off, it had been a long while since the people in the Tongfeng class had laid eyes on her. It was rare for anyone at Jiang University to take time off, let alone an entire week. Gao Yuan and others sat in the middle. And as soon as Bai Lian entered, many eyes fell on her. I heard they had a conflict with Professor Sun's lab members, Wang Shi murmured next to a male student. So Professor Sun filed a report to send them away. By the way, Gao Xiao, do you know which lab they're going to be assigned to? Without looking up, Gao Yuan said indifferently. It should be Professor Zhou's lab. Professor Zhou? Hearing this, Wang Shi lowered his head. Although Zhou Wenqing was their advisor, everyone in their group came from some background and knew. If a professor had key projects, the school would not assign them to lead freshmen. The only reason Zhou Wenqing was assigned to teach them was that he didn't have any key projects on hand. Labs like that are always of little value. At least our group has Gao Yuan, who goes straight into Dr. Gao's lab. The male student beside Wang Shi sighed again. Wang Shi had always believed his choice was correct. He felt even more certain that leaving Ding Wenyang's group for Gao Yuan's had been a wise move. Compared to them, what seemed even more bizarre was Zhou Wenqing, who after 4 hours of lecture that morning, waited for Bai Lian at the door. Bai Lian, carrying her canvas bag, handed her card to Tang Ming, asking him to wait for her in the canteen. Almost all the other students had left, and she remained with Zhou Wenqing in the hallway. By student, you didn't tell Dean Huang you were going to another group? Zhou Wenqing tapped his fingers on the teaching plan he was holding, speaking earnestly. My lab is quite small with only 4 members, and we don't have a full range of tools. The members had also been lackadaisical lately. Zhou Wenqing felt he couldn't be much help to Bai Lian and the others. It's fine, Bai Lian said after he finished, lifting her chin slightly, her tone unhurried. You just need to not refuse us. Zhou Wenqing had prepared many arguments to tell her that choosing a good lab was important to them, but looking at Bai Lian's expression now, he said helplessly, I want refuse, but my lab's research topic is quite vague, and most of the 4 members are just coasting through for a degree. I'm afraid it'll impact you. Probably only Zhou Wenqing could admit the mediocre quality of his students. He stood there, watching Bai Lian's retreating figure. He couldn't help but pull out his phone and call his assistant. Help me apply for more palladium with the higher-ups. Zhou Wenqing decided to make an effort. Having newcomers was an excuse. Zhou Wenqing's lab was in the experimental center. Bai Lian and the others headed there straight after lunch. His lab wasn't as large as Sun Fuss, consisting of just one room, where 3 students chatted at the central table. When new students entered, the only female student stood up quickly, tidying her desk. Juniors, welcome. I'm Huyu, and this is the senior brother Lu, and the second senior brother. Hu Yu, with her short hair and tall figure, was straightforward and efficient. She seemed like the kind of student Zhou Wenqing would take on. Sister Hu, Brother Lu, Brother Chu. Ding Wenyang and the others greeted obediently. Junior brothers and sisters, add me on WeChat first. Hu Yu took out her phone for them to scan the QR code. After scanning, she showed them around to the lab equipment. The lab being quite small, one could see everything at a glance. The lab operation manuals are all here. Take a look. If there's anything you don't understand, feel free to ask me or the senior brother. Tang Ming took a look around and asked Hu Yu. Sister Hu, so what tasks do we have today? About that, Hu Yu exchanged a look with the senior brother. Our teacher's research focus is on superconductors, but we don't have a lot of experimental equipment right now, so our lab isn't busy. You can just familiarize yourselves with the topics. There's no need to help us. If you have any questions, just ask. The new lab was inherently small, and with Bai Lian and the others, it became lively. Tang Ming and Ding Wenyang excitedly studied the machinery. Whenever they encountered something they didn't understand, Hu Yu and the two seniors would patiently explain it to them. Bai Lian and Ning Xiao found a spot and sat down to study Ning Xiao's plasma decomposition. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Hu Yu and a few others were going to attend an academic lecture. Hu Yu, sitting across from Bai Lian, rested her chin on the table and asked, "Do you guys have any favorite desserts? I'll bring a few extra for you during the tea break." The tea breaks at Jiang University are famous after all. The academic event wasn't exactly in Hu Yu's field, but the school required attendance, and they were quite willing to go, not so much for the conference but for the delicious tea break. Upon hearing this, Tang Ming immediately looked up. Taro Xiaobei. A little after 4 o'clock, Hu Yu returned with Senior Lu and a few others, each holding a paper bag. They placed the fruits and cakes on the long table in the middle and invited the seniors and juniors in the lab to enjoy the afternoon tea. Taro Xiaobei, mousse cake, chocolate cookies, we have it all here. Take whatever you fancy, juniors. Bai Lian was sitting in her spot, having already completed the diagram for Ning Xiao. She was somewhat surprised to see the tea snacks Hu Yu and the others brought back, not expecting them to bring so many. Thank you, senior brothers and sisters. Tang Ming put down the experimental equipment he was working with. Bai Lian also set aside what she was doing and leisurely took a strawberry, taking a bite. Chatting with Hu Yu. Senior sister, did you say there was a shortage of lab equipment? Not exactly lab equipment. Hu Yu spoke to Bai Lian as it wasn't a secret. Our teacher's research topic is superconductors, and there's a very important metal element in there, palladium. But the annual quota of palladium is limited, and after April, our experiments have hardly progressed. Palladium. Bai Lian finished off the rest of the strawberry. She pulled out a piece of paper from the table and leisurely wiped her hands, deep in thought. Friday afternoon. After hanging out in the lab for a few days, Tang Ming had learned how to operate various pieces of experimental equipment. Like Ning Xiao, he was quite interested in all this. Right now, Senior Lu was discussing previous experimental data with Ning Xiao and Tang Ming, and was not at all secretive. He patiently answered any questions they had. Bai Lian saw they were still busy researching, so she didn't wait for them and left the lab by herself. Downstairs at the research center, Jiang Fulai was waiting for her. Seeing her come out in a fleece-lined slant-collared outfit, holding a cloak in her hand, too lazy to put it on herself. "Aren't you cold?" There was heating on in the car. He was just wearing a black sweater, which only made him look even cooler. His left hand resting on the steering wheel, his right hand touching the back of her hand. Good, her hand was warmer than his. The words that were about to come out of his mouth vanished instantly. Chapter 738. 293 is so much like our ancestor. _1 Shanghai apartment style. After Bai Lian sent out a message, she casually took the wilted roses from the vase as Xiao Wu and Mao Kuan arrived. Sun Chun didn't come? Bai Lian pulled out a chair to sit down, leaning back, the dry roses carelessly held in her hand as she idly fiddled with the stems. Xiaoqi showed her the recent business project update. She's at the new store in Sherman District. When Sun Chun first came to Jiangjing, she liked visiting Bai Lian's place quite often, adding various things to it. But in recent months, she hasn't shown much interest in coming to Shanghai apartment. She also frequented bars less often. Her preference shifted to visiting the business project and occasionally learning some traditional Chinese medicine from Henji Wei. A branch office in Sherman District had just opened, and since Xiaoqi and the rest were preoccupied, Sun Chun temporarily ceased her work in Yinxiao District and lately had been spending most of her time in Sherman District, to the point that Xiaoqi hardly saw her. Mao Kuan had Xiaowu follow her, so there was no worry about her encountering any danger. Bai Lian perused the summary report that Xiaoqi had given her, most of which she could hardly understand. But she still got a general idea of the business' recent situation. The business project differentiated itself from other herbal medicine stores in that its major source of products, especially the solid foundation paste, was Xiangqing. Following Zioki's preemptive purchase of medicinal materials with 2 million last year, most farmers now cultivated medicinal herbs this year. Xiangqing was the best place for herbal cultivation, and solid foundation paste was the business signature product. As long as it remained unaffected, even if Luo family tried to suppress it, they couldn't destroy the business in its infancy. After solidifying its position, Xiaoqi then launched acupuncture for myopia, without Lance's knowledge, instantly becoming a sensation online, even though such popularity was fleeting. But the successive day-in acupuncture for myopia check-in videos that continued to trend ensured ongoing attention. Following this, once the efficacy of the acupuncture for myopia was confirmed, there was no fear of being forgotten by the public. Of course, on top of this foundation, there was another vital factor. The endorser for solid foundation paste was Yen Lu. This was also a crucial factor in breaking into first-tier city markets from the lower-tier ones. How are the negotiations with traditional Chinese medicine university going? Bai Lian looked at Xiaoqi. Dr. Hen is discussing with the professors at the school. Xiaoqi sat opposite Bai Lian, his hand resting on the table. There aren't many doctors willing to intern with us, but some senior professors are very interested in Dr. Hen's acupuncture techniques. This wasn't surprising. After all, medical students preferred to intern at large hospitals, or at least authoritative institutions. The business had only been established for a bit over a year and lacked professional authority in the field. Bai Lian wasn't surprised. The two discussed some issues about the business, and then Bai Lian brought up the problem with the old bill. Have you thought about finding your biological parents? Zioki's expression was exceptionally calm. It doesn't matter anymore. 103. Shenqing came over early in the morning with groceries. The weekends were always bustling at Shanghai apartment, with Jiang Fulai watching Jiang He solve Olympiad math problems downstairs. Lance was playing Go with Pu Xiaohan. Jianjia had an exam tomorrow, and Ji Heng had specially called him over for dinner. At the moment he was helping in the kitchen. Chief Chen got off work early today, having just learned a few cooking tricks from Qi Yundai the previous week, and was showing off his skills in the kitchen. Shenqing was examining the blender next to her, surrounded by a variety of fruits, researching how to make juice. When Bai Lian came down, Jiang Fulai was maintaining a cold expression towards Jiang He. Lance and Pu Xiaohan had moved their small table 2 meters away, to keep a distance from the two. Jiang He sat at the dining table, his feet 20 centimeters off the ground, his right hand holding a pen, and his left pressing down a test paper. Jiang Fulai sat beside him, his elbow on the table, slender fingertips holding a phone, his sharp eyes slightly askew. An answer that one knows with a mere glance. Standing beside Jiang He, Bai Lian looked down and saw that he was stuck on the last question about thought expansion in the Olympiad math paper. Jiang He was sensitive to numbers, having mastered elementary math many years ago, and was now tackling middle school Olympiad questions. Even though they were middle school problems, they held little challenge for Jiang Fulai. Asking him to explain middle school level thinking was no different than asking him, what's 1 plus 1? It wasn't just Jiang Fulai. Upon first glance at the question, Bai Lian also intuitively thought of the answer. Bai Lian spoke calmly. Jiang Xiaoniao, wait for your brother Zhang to come back and have him explain it to you. She turned around, leaving Jiang He in Jiang Fulai's care, and headed to the kitchen to find Chief Chen. Chief Chen was slicing potatoes into thin strips. Miss Bai, he paused his knife work to greet her when he saw her entering. Bai Lian nodded slightly and reached out to help him wash the vegetables. Can I take another look at Zhou Jian's file from Xiangqing? Source: web novel. Chapter 739. 293 is so much like our ancestor. _2 The transaction records from Bacter Street have come through, listing Zhou Jian as one of the tradespeople. It's hard to account for transactions from over a decade ago, but because Zhou Jian frequently dealt with buyers, he remembers clearly that one of the buyers was Zhou Jian. Zhou Jian. It took Director Chen a while to recall who this person was. Zhou Jian, the man who nearly caused Su En to suffer brain death, Ren Qian's secretary. Zhou Jian's file is at the Xiangqing branch, said Director Chen, who was also promoted straight to Jiangjing from Xiangqing. A lot of people in Xiangqing remembered his kindness. He'll ask them to find the file and scan it over tonight, and find a time for Sun Fei to take you directly to the system at the Yinxiao branch. It's not advisable to send internal materials from Xiangqing over carelessly. Gao family study room. Gaoyi was talking to Mu Yujun. You haven't seen her yet? Mu Yujun placed the teacup beside him. She hasn't returned to the Mu family, let alone me. Even Yining seldom sees her. Forget it, no need to bother. Gaoyi said no more, and took the teacup, lowering his gaze to take a sip of tea. After she had left, Gaoyi turned to Gao Jiechen. You know that Professor Ma's laboratory is looking for an undergraduate, right? This could be a breakthrough for Gao Yuan. Dad, don't worry, I'm guiding my cousin in the core research, Gao Jiechen said, with his whole team now working for Gao Yuan. This year, both Liang Wuyu and Bai Lian are strong competitors. Which team are they in now? Zhou Wenqing's team, I checked. They are researching superconductors, but after 3 years, the project has made little progress, Gao Jiechen informed Gao Yi. Gao Yi slowly set down his teacup. No progress in 3 years. What are they doing with so much scientific research funding every year? Make them deliver results this year, or there's no point in continuing this project. Saturday. The National Graduate Student Entrance Examination begins. This year, Su Wenyao and Jianzhou are both participating in the big test. Jiangjing doesn't get much rain or snow, but the cold is particularly biting. All the lakes in Jiangjing are frozen. Today, Ji Heng and Director Chen are ice fishing at Jiayu Lake. Pu Xiaohan wants to check in at the ancient buildings of Jiangjing. Lian, will you join me? Just wear what you have. I'll take a few shots of your silhouette for my new concept, a collision of ancient and modern. Sister Lu hasn't returned to Jiangjing, otherwise, I could ask her too. Of course, Pu Xiaohan's first choice was always Bai Lian. Bai Lian was reading documents in the study room, and without giving it much thought, joined Pu Xiaohan. She has never refused people like Pu Xiaohan. Chapter 740. 293 is so much like our ancestor. _3 When Bai Zhongyu died, like Bai Li, he left no body behind. Lady Bai erected a cenotaph for him, so the grave was not large, and it was fenced off by people from the tourist area. Bai Lian followed behind Pu Xiaohan, looking at the cenotaph here. The previous group had just finished paying homage to Bai Zhongyu. There were many things stuffed in front of Bai Zongyi's tomb by young people, including short swords, toy guns, newspapers, as well as chocolates and lollipops. There was also a bunch of poppies, the Bai family's representative bouquet, parked to the side. After paying her respects, Pu Xiaohan saw that Bai Lian was still standing in front of the tomb. Thinking it was Bai Lian's first visit, she did not disturb her and spoke with the people managing the cemetery instead, asking how often they cleared the offerings. Bai Lian, holding a lit incense stick, looked at the numbers carved on the headstone before speaking. You see, in the end, Chen Yi and the others survived, and I am also doing quite well. Bai Lian took out her phone, which had a photo of Jiang Suyi's grave site. After flipping to that photo and contemplating for a long time, she still did not display the picture. I saw the third princess, she's doing quite well too. Jiang Suyi was 2 years younger than Bai Zhongyu. When she was younger, due to poor health, she was sent by Emperor Jiang to Bai Li to learn spear fighting for a while, and she had known Bai Zhongyu since childhood. However, after Bai Li died on the battlefield, and Bai Zhongyu went far away to Xiangqing, the two never saw each other again. The night before Jiang Suyi was sent off for a diplomatic marriage by Emperor Jiang, Bai Lian secretly climbed into Jiang Suyi's palace to ask her if she wanted to escape. She remembered how her father died trapped on the battlefield without reinforcements. She remembered how Bai Zhongyu gave up the pen to join the military and went to Xiangqing. She remembered how the third princess died on the plains, unable to wait for her brother to come back and pacify the grasslands. Only when Xiangqing could no longer hold out, and she was left alone in Xiangqing, could she understand Jiang Suyi's thoughts. Jiang Suyi did not leave. She had no choice, as it was an imperial command she could not defy. But it was also for the common people. She was Jiang Suyi, and she was also the third princess. When Chen Beixian arrived at Bai Zongyi's tomb, wearing a military coat and black leather ankle boots, carrying a bouquet of sunflowers, what she saw was just such a scene. The girl wrapped in a white cloak, holding a cell phone standing in front of Bai Zongyi's tomb. The way she lowered her eyes, she looked extremely similar to the only painting worshipped in the Chen family ancestral shrine. Chen Beixian felt a bit dazed.